Well, what is going on, everybody? This is going to be another episode of the Cloud9 podcast, season 9, episode 14. We are at the time of, doing this episode of the Cloud9 podcast. We will be at officially 196 episodes, and then come this Sunday, we'll be 3 episodes away from hitting 200 episodes. So, initially, I planned on hitting 200 episodes at the end of the year during the final week of December, which would be New Year's Eve, which is on a Sunday this year. But since we've been able to add in many other episodes into this season because of Worlds 2023, as well as the League of Legends 2023 off-season news, that has been a huge benefactor into adding in more episodes into the season. We'll be on season 10 very soon, and I can't wait to have our 200 episode special where I'm going to be on here talking about all my League of Legends accomplishments, all my teams that I played for. I picked at rank 1 in Challenger in NA, EU, Korea, China, obviously. And I want to say thank you to every single person that watches and listens to this show on the podcasting platforms. Our biggest platform currently right now for the show is Amazon Music, but I know people consume the show on other platforms as well. So, just want to say thank you guys for watching this show, whether or not you're at the gym, whether or not you're, commuting back and forth from work, whether you need someone to listen to when you're on a second monitor. We'll be that second monitor experience. We'll be the people that you choose to listen to over the other, more intelligent, better looking men on the internet than obviously us. But then again, that can't happen because I'm the best looking man on the internet with the most based opinions. And, it's crazy. People with big accounts on Twitter follow me because I have based opinions on stuff, because I'm not some emotional fucking weirdo like some people are in the League of Legends community. And some of these people are just straight up stupid. That's what I kind of figure out with League, is people over the years are just kind of straight up stupid. Like, literally the whole industry could be on fire and people will be like, this is fine. Like, are people going to not pretend like EG Diversity hired some fucking black woman and she tanked the entire org? Like, that actually happened. They actually hired a black woman. She tanked the entire org. They're literally, I think the only esport they're going to be in is Valorant coming up because, like I mentioned before in other episodes of the show, the Valorant spot you can't sell. So Riot can't sell your spot. They probably could because they actually own the slot itself. So basically the team can't sell the slot and they basically pay you for being in Valorant. That's kind of it. That's actually the most beneficial thing for a lot of teams in Valorant. That's why they want to be in Valorant, because Riot just basically pays you, but the only problem is that you can't sell the slot. That's it. But the other problem, which is not a problem, is it's called the Americas, which means that you are competing with Brazil, Latin America potentially, and the American teams as well. So, there's slight potential issues, but it's not really anything that bad overall. That's why potentially you can see the LCS move to this model, I think, at some point in the future, but I really don't know, honestly. I could see it happening, them consolidating like Latin America and Brazil. You would get like the most hyped teams and the best orgs out of Mexico and Brazil, and then kind of, have them want to compete here. Do they want to do that? I don't know. Or do the orgs just move over there? Because Brazil has the bigger viewership. And on personal, Latin America's viewership is pretty much a little bit better than the LCS, I think. But I think eventually the LCS will move to the VCT Americas, style of having a region, because this is, I don't know, looking like it's not working out. And the records show that LCS is down 50% compared to last year. And I told people this last year before too. The interest in the LCS is dying, not because the region is just, well, it is, that is going to be a truthful statement too. People just like watching the LCK and LPL more because, well, they win everything. Like, why would you watch here when you could literally just watch like the best regions, And if enough casters in the broadcast keep saying, well, the LCK is the best region, LPL is the best region, LPL this, LCK that, a lot of casuals pick up on that. They go, well, why am I watching dog shit then? Like, why would you watch this dog shit when you could just watch the other two. And we know this is true because the numbers in their ratings prove it. People don't care what time they're at. They'll just watch them. They don't care anymore about time zones. LCK and LPL get all the viewers. So, yeah. I don't know. So the advantage of the LCS was like, hey, we came on at, 2 o'clock in the day. Doesn't matter. People rather just wait 12 a.m. to watch T1 play. It doesn't matter anymore.
I just want to point out, you are just you speaking nonsense right now. They're not watching the LPL and LCK because they are the best, which is some people. The reason they're watching it is because the people who watch NA, which is the NA-born people, don't care about the LCS anymore because interest for the game has died. It's not just the viewership base, the
overall
player base
gameplay
itself
would have a definite impact on that.
Yeah, I'm just saying no, it doesn't. The overall player base is also decreased marginally. Everything about League because the way NA works is they're like a short attention span region. Most of the games they watch are fighting games and shooter games. So as we look at inside of LCK and LPL, they're more so along the lines of StarCraft and other similar games like that. They like longer, more tactical games, where so as NA does not, and that's why the viewership has not dropped. The reason NA's dropped is just because the LCS was in the limelight a long enough time, but now people have moved on from the game, and so is the viewership for it. People don't watch the game if they're not playing it, really. It's not very common for people to do that. I mean, that's the reality and I feel like it's probably not going to shift from that because, honestly, this game is just not built for the NA for the NA viewership. It's not a game that works well for them.
Well, you already had people moving away long before that. I think if the LCS put on an interesting product before, because just recently the broadcast just got better. There were so many more contributing factors to people not wanting to actually play the game. The game went through a lot of changes. A lot of people didn't like those changes. A lot of people just only stuck around with watching League. But then I think what is the inherent reason anyone really watches the LCS outside of just being from America?
Okay, let's look at the most viewed season of all time for the LCS. What season do you think that was?
Freak. Had to have been between seasons 3 through 7.
2017, season 7.
Yeah.
I believe this is their highest viewed season. And second highest from what this is a graph of most.
Now keep in mind during that specific season, that was best of 3s too. That entire season, yeah.
Top of it, second one is 2020. 2020 was the year that
with an asterisk. That has had an asterisk because of COVID, but everyone's on lockdown too. That definitely has to apply because right after everyone went out of lockdown, those numbers drastically went down. As we just
our third highest year from then is still 2021. So the reality is, I mean, I'll agree with you. The lockdown definitely had a major portion of it, but what
were the ones that aren't the lockdown?
The ones that aren't the lockdown
besides 2017,
2021, 2020.
Besides those two, if you don't count those two, what do you count as the other?
2018.
Two? Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
So the reality is, NA has actually drastically dipped in viewership just because, and you can look at it, it's a downward trajectory. Every single year goes drastically farther and farther down. Beyond what I can actually agree with you, the 2020 year lockdown, the viewership has steadily declined. And it's not because we've been bad forever. We've been bad since the inception of the LCS. So it's not really any differences between that. It's because viewership.
But I think that will have long-term lasting effects.
It's only so it actually doesn't matter to the casuals. What it matters to is the more people that are invested more. People who are invested more inside of the LCS, into the professional league scene, are not going to be watching the LCS because unless they are I like the LCS, they're not going to be watching it because they're probably going to be more invested in the LCS LPL. When I was very invested inside of the league scene was season 5 to 8. My biggest years, I watched every single game from the LPL and LCK. I just watched it during church and everything like that. And the reason I did that is because of the fact that I was wanting to watch the most talented region, and I thought that was the way to do it. So I pretty much always had the games on. I watched it. Remember at church camp, I had every single game playing on my phone. That's just how I did it. So the reality is people are not drifting away. The casual viewer base is not drifting away from the LCS because they're not good, because the casual viewer base is the same with the men's soccer team. USA men's soccer.
If the casual viewer base is drifting away from the LCS, there's many factors that would make a casual, drift away. So I think over prolonged bad gameplay would do that. I think
they don't know. So
value.
I do want to point out
the LCS the broadcast was very bad for a long time.
If I showed you 10 clips, and including casual players, They cannot tell the difference between a platinum player and a Masters player.
That's not really going to apply to them.
It does apply to them because they can't tell that the gameplay's bad. It looks the same.
No, not the gameplay itself. Because you said people watch the games. If people hear casters and people talk to them over hours and hours and hours of many tournaments on many years on end, if they keep saying some things, people are just going to end up believing it. So that would also have an effect too of drafts.
I would say
casuals over.
I think the reality
is streamers too, because don't most people watch co-streamers now? If most co-streamers are saying these guys are better, then like that would have a drift in casuals going to them too.
I believe the LOL might actually be comparable. Actually, they might have more viewers than us at this point.
Yeah, so that's my big thing when it comes to LCS. Is even if the gameplay's bad, because the CBL gameplay is atrocious.
Yeah, and they watch more than us.
Yeah, so it's nothing about the gameplay being bad. It's more like, why is this product not resonating with people?
It's just the reality is people don't play League as much in NA anymore, and it's unfortunate. I mean, look at the ranked ladder. I mean, I think EU had I think I looked 3 years ago. They had 3 times the player base in ranked than we did.
Yeah,
which is in nonsense because the population difference is nothing. The reality is people do not play League as much in this region, and it's the people who played the League scene inside of NA. At the bottom of the barrel, they're weirdos. They're just dudes who don't talk very much, and it doesn't reflect well because the personalities that are reflective of the NA viewership. And we could point out back in the season 5 and before seasons, the biggest player personalities came from NA. We got I'm a Cutie Pie and all those people. They're big names, big viewerships, and that's what drew in people because they watched their gameplay. They probably watched
personalities is what drew it in. Doublelift, Dyrus, Scara, Hotshot GG.
I'm gonna point out people like Doublelift. Doublelift does not have a funny personality. He's not entertaining.
No, but at that moment it didn't matter because he just
I'm a Cutie Pie, not as good as people, but he was an entertaining person back then, and everybody loved watching him. That's the reason he was big. And that's another, and I think that's one of the biggest things is what the traction or the skew of how people are viewing the esports scene is directly correlated to the players scene inside of the streaming scene.
And that's why I mentioned earlier the LCS product. The LCS should definitely do a better job at marketing these guys. Now, people got to factor in, they just now started doing this. They had many years to capitalize on Scara, I'm a Cutie Pie, Doublelift, Hotshot GG, Reginald, like Jack. You could just even use Jack as a personality for the LCS, how impactful he is. Steve, they wasted all those potential narratives on nothing. They just thought that, League's just going to be the biggest game forever in America, so we don't really do anything. You know, like that's why when I talk about the LCS product, I'm talking about the LCS product of the past, where they just kind of just did nothing but did a basic ghetto version of the NFL broadcast because they felt like this is what the fan base needed. But in reality, they didn't realize that League, the way it got big was because of the grassroots scene between people watching like Dyrus and stuff like that. So if they propped up the personalities, the viewership would be more propped up based off all these things. Now, all these personalities dipping didn't help because they all started retiring, started getting lives, started getting older.
I think another point in what I will say about the LCS is that the esports scene in general has the single worst casting system I've ever seen in my life. All the casters suck. It's not their faults. They don't know what they're doing. They've kind of accustomed themselves. And what I could point to, the more entertaining version of casting would be what I would say old version of the LCK with Dopa. God, my brain's not even working anymore. Shut up. Yeah, the two guys from the LCK, like the second oldest guys. Do you remember their names? Doa and Monty. They had this specific way that they were intelligent, and there was a little bit of hype of what they said, but they never went over the top with their hype. People don't like to see that. And again, point out the first time that what's his name did that. The Kobe went hype for CLG. That was fun. But ever since he's trying to replicate that, and it's been
what you're talking about right there is something specific. You mentioned Doe and Monty. What did they have? They had synergy. That's what
it's not just that. It's the
Riot specifically doesn't like that. Riot doesn't specifically like that because if two casters can be like, "Hey, we bring in the most viewership because we're the best duo," they don't like that because that can specifically make sure they're different. with people. They make sure they're crossing over with other people.
Is that true? Because I think the reason
you notice it throughout the years of the LCS. Why
they're not doing it on person?
I think they are. They have to be, because there's no reason why you can't.
Why would they ruin their
You're just seriously gonna trust Riot has good intention when it comes to people?
Why would they ruin their own product? I don't understand. They want it to succeed, but they're not investing as much resources anymore because they know it's on a downward trajectory.
No, but that's something that I've noticed throughout the year. Why don't we have because people could get attached to a set duo, like for the LEC, people like Vedius and Medic, so they have Vedius and Medic cast together most of the time. People like Doe and Monty, so the LCK made sure they had all the days to work. The LCS doesn't have that. I can't name a duo that we have because they never are the same. You get like Mark, and you'll have like Captain
They've
Flowers.
got a massive casting system, and I'll agree with that. But the reality is, even if they had a duo, it wouldn't work, and the chemistry.
It would fix your problem. Having a more better 2v2 synergy is better than having randoms.
With the casting system is that the casters suck. The only casters that really are good. I am. And I mean it 100%. The reality is every single one of the casters tries to replicate what Kobe did. Over the top shout casting is not what everybody wants. They want some energy. They don't want too much. And the color casting cannot be the only thing that happens besides shout casting. There needs to be casual conversation going on in between the game. We can look at football. They talk about the game. They bring up a lot of stuff, but also they're bringing up a lot of things about the players and stuff like that. They bring a little bit of personality to the game itself. Or so as we look at the LCS casting system, all it is shout casting into color casting about the game, and then we go straight back into the gameplay, narrating each move.
With football, that can't happen without synergy developing.
I'm not disagreeing with synergy being a thing.
That's what I'm saying. The LCS
synergy being the biggest thing, and synergy being the only thing is I don't even think it's the biggest thing they're missing. They need better
get a more natural casting flow. If I synergize what with you and we have a natural flow, that's going to make the audience feel like.
And let's look at another thing. Is if one of the big things that Riot does is if somebody says a joke, they have to fake laugh, and it's very apparent when they fake laugh. Everybody hates it. They need to stop with this. Like you can see one of them make an awkward joke. The others go, I don't know if you've noticed that, but it happens all the time. It's the lack of personality that I think anything else before anything else. There's only a few casters that I could say are refined enough to do color shout casting. It's a very hard thing to do.
Atlas,
like Atlas is pretty good. The LPL casters, unfortunately, were probably the best casters, and they're most of them. And
LCK casters are all pretty good.
Papa Smithy was very good.
Yeah.
Monty and Doa, obviously. I really liked
Valdez. He's really good. Valdez is really talented.
I don't like Valdez.
Dagda is really talented.
There's some EU casters too. There are people.
Well, that came from the LPL.
Yeah. What I'm saying is there are casters that are pretty good, but for the most part, there is a lack of personality that I think. And the color caster cannot be the most interesting person. Unfortunately, it cannot happen that way. The shout caster needs to be hype, and he needs to not have to contribute to the color casting. He needs to be able. He can. Obviously, he needs to know what he's talking about. Yeah. But there needs to be casual conversation.
That's what I mentioned earlier, which is the LCS broadcast as a product needs fundamental changing. Like, remember, they just now made it where like the analyst desk is a lot more interesting. This is 2023 we're talking about. They just did that now. How many years late you're on that?
I don't like the analyst deck still. I will point this out.
No, I mean, it's got a bit better compared to what it used to be.
I think
I'm just saying, like, the late attention to that is so apparent. Like, why is it that it just changed now? That's ridiculous.
I'm going to point out, if I was in charge of the LCS, I would fire 75 to 80% of the casters on the spot.
Yeah, and hire blue-haired, woke weirdos, right?
Dude, I don't even know what you're talking about, dork. I'm just saying, I would fire 80% of the casters because they know a lot about the game, and that's the only part that they've really tried to work on in terms of casting, and I don't like that.
I thought Freak was an interesting personality, but Freak he started writing on the wall and he retired.
Freak was okay for a little bit. He was okay.
No, but you could look to that guy and go, okay, he has a specific, distinct style that I like about that guy.
There's a calm, there's a specific style, and I think the best thing that the LCS does is the color casting. The color commentary. The color commentators are a lot better than the shoutcasters. Yeah, because when you understand that specific person, like you go, okay, Freak has this style that I like. That makes people attracted to that person. When someone has just a bunch of, and that's the problem with caster synergy. If you keep swapping people in and out, people get these random duos that they have no connection to. Viewers care about those kind of things. A lot of people do, but they don't do that.
You know,
Well, it's because they can't do it. Is because they're
Kobe's
uninteresting.
personality? What is
shouting.
Azael's personality?
Shouting.
That can only go so far when there's plenty of other people that can do that.
Well, the thing about it is Kobe used to have actually a personality that I actually enjoyed to watch. It was back in season 4 to 5. Sorry, season 4 to 5. I think Kobe had a personality where it wasn't just shouting. He got a lot of common people hyped up. Really liked his specific shoutcasting during the CLG
I think people
finals.
still do.
I don't like it now.
Or I'll give Quick Shot. What was Quick Shot's big thing everyone liked about him? He named the actual summoner's spells as he was casting. People like that about him. Freak had the puns people liked about him. Deficio, he leaned that he was European. People like that.
People need to not lean specifically into
Vedius is super. He leaned into being cringe analytical. Yeah. People like that.
But the problem is that if you do a specific niche, you're not going to appeal to every. You need a specific personality that appeals to everybody. We could look at Tony Romo.
Not possible though. There's no way.
It's literally possible. The other actual.
You don't have that. I don't have that.
Tony Romo from the NFL. He's not always making jokes, but he's funny sometimes, and he's very analytical, but explains the game in a way that even the average person could do. That is something I like. Some of the color commentators can do it, but for the most part, we'll look at the color commentators explaining the game at a higher technical level than their average person can see, because instead of actually wanting to explain the game, they want to actually show off how smart they are, and that's the difference between it. They don't. That is my friends don't eat turkey, so I cooked a pho and calamari buffet for Thanksgiving dinner. That is way too much work. But you need to invite me next Thanksgiving.
If anyone is watching and listening to this episode on the podcasting platforms, happy Thanksgiving to everyone and happy holidays to everyone. And I don't celebrate holidays, but if you guys all do, then I hope
because you're a weirdo, dude.
How about I give you a knuckle sandwich?
Yeah, I invite him every single year, by the way, to every single holiday, and he rejects me. This is the first year I didn't just say come over. I was like, he's not going to come, so I'm not going to bother. But so the reality of the LCS is the fact that the color comment.
Hey, pal. You just blowing from Stupid Town?
You find that funny? So, the reality of...
Look at little Goblin Jr.
I don't even know what that one means. That doesn't even make... Why is that in there? That doesn't... How could you apply that anywhere? Look at little Goblin Jr.
Great! Plan B! Huh? This is for everyone you've killed! England murderer!
Hold your fire! This man isn't black!
Thank you. I'm not black. But I don't even remember what I was saying anymore.
No, I'm just saying that's a fundamental problem with the LCS. So remember earlier this year, Tigers got a lot of heat for that TSM segment. But this is something that I didn't hate her for with that one. Because I didn't mind her doing that. Because why do people watch the WWE? It has controversies. I think just league in general, and this is with LCK, LPL, LEC too. Why don't people enjoy controversy more? Controversy literally drives viewership. The only reason why people still watch WWE is because of controversies. It's literally where people still watch.
Well, let's point this out. I think the reality is people like controversies, but forced controversies are not enjoyable.
Yeah,
it needs to be. It can't be artificial. It needs to be natural, and when it flows, and so, let's point out some actual controversies. When what's his name? I can't remember what it was. I believe it was Rocks Tigers versus KT, and one of the ADC, the backup ADC for I think KT was like, if I get a chance to prove myself on stage, I'll prove everybody wrong, and I'll make sure I expose you on the game. And then he gets on, and then what's his name? God, I can't remember Coup Tigers ADC. Gorilla and Prey. Prey gets on there, and he's like, "Who are you?" And it killed. I was laughing for hours, dude. That was funny. It's a really the way that flows and the way you make natural controversy is if you do those types of things. What the LCK does is you put them on in a situation where they talk about the enemy people, and you don't have to say, "Oh, I hope you have a good game" or something like that. You kind of drive up the stakes and stuff like that. I think the reason the NA doesn't actually have these types of things is because, first of all, there's no one with personality left in the LCS. It's just a bunch of dorks that actually play the game. No streamers.
The only person I've seen it then do it is just JoJo on Twitter, but that's obviously not enough.
No, Twitter's not enough. Twitter's fine, and that is how a lot of people drive it up. We see the LCS, the NA. If you look at Kevin Durant actually types a lot of tweets, and he'll type it out specifically targeting a lot of NBA players, and I think it's really interesting. But for the most part, the LCS doesn't have the personalities. They don't have the casting. They don't. There's a lot of problems with the system, and it all comes down to the fact. If you want my honest opinion, if they leaned more into the gambling angle, they would probably get a lot more viewers. There'd be a lot more on the line, and people would like it. People don't like gambling, but it is very much how you drive up people's stakes.
I think that's another. Games. I think that's not a bad idea either. I think if the actual LCS product was better and it was a product that's geared towards pushing up the personalities, because people don't understand how much the actual broadcast means to stuff. Like for the NFL, the NBA, when it comes to like WWE, the product itself has to be presentable. Because remember how esports try to be like a ghetto version of traditional sports? Well, that's not going to work with younger people.
I'm going to point out, if they got the right casters, they could do it.
But that style of demographic is mostly geared towards people like your dad's age, right? People like between their 40s
people my age.
No, but they're trying to capture like people between like 18 and 24. That's their biggest demographic.
You're trying to capture people from 9 to 14 is what you're saying.
Yeah, people, so like I think having a traditional sports broadcast is just not going to appeal to people.
I think it should work out, and I think the only reason it doesn't is because the casters suck. The casters are bad at it. I mean, it's just like the casters. I don't care. The casters are bad, and that's the reason that DC. And I'm going to point this out. I don't even watch the games with sound on anymore because I can't stand it. The only time I'll watch either that or I'll watch a coach stream, I cannot stand listening to the casters because they just ramble on for hours. I don't need good. You can explain the basic items to me, but first of all, I think one of the biggest problems I have is they don't have voices that I appreciate. The only deep voiced people, like deep voiced, good sounding people, are smug and condescending. It feels like the entire time. But it's not really. Those are just my specific. That wouldn't appeal to the populace. Most people wouldn't care about that. But I think there's not a lot of personality. There's not a lot of things appealing to new people. It's all a bunch of things that are already to experienced players. You shouldn't have to watch the game or have played the game to be able to understand it to a certain extent. NFL, I've never played a legitimate game of football. I've only played like flag football and playing with friends sometimes. But I understand most every rule at this point because I've watched so much football. I like it. I enjoy watching it. It's very fun to do. And it's just, that's the reality is NFL will explain everything to you as the broadcast goes on. If you get a flag that you don't understand, they'll go step by step why it happened, what's going on. Explaining, they need to get this specific item because it gives pen and it does this. Like, it's another thing is there's too many combinations of items for the average player. They need to have more apparent impacts on the game or they're not going to be liked. If they don't have flashy or showy stuff, people aren't going to understand what they do. Giving 2% damage increase to people that are shield. It's more than that, obviously, for what's it called. But
so you're saying they talk down to people essentially, and that's what
they don't talk down to people. They don't explain the game enough, and people don't understand what's happening.
That's the thing, though, but you can't always. No one just wants an info dump, dude.
It doesn't just be an info dump. Listen to. But so let's point out, people don't understand why the items are getting bought. People don't understand that. People don't understand why the
Storm Razor got buffed.
They don't care about the buffs. The buffs don't need to be explained unless that's to the more experienced players. Explain what the item does. I think if it popped up on the screen or something like that, or for the most part, that would be okay. It doesn't really do that. It just shows a picture. It highlights the picture when they buy an item. Explain that they're rotating around the map, which is fine. They do that sometimes, but not all the time, which is a problem I have. I think there's a large problem with how they structure the LCS casting system, and I think that's why it's not enjoyable. And I think realistically, even if they're doing everything right, it wouldn't work because all these casters are very boring. I think that's a problem I have with them. They're not good at casting. They don't have good personalities.
No, I think there needs to be just an evolution of casting.
It's become worse, in my opinion. It's become a lot worse.
Because they're doing what people have. It's the whole. No one wants to hear info dump bullshit to people.
They don't do that. They don't do info dump.
They tried to be a lot more fun that I've noticed because back in the day it was just nothing but a bunch of info dumping, and I'm like, this sounds cool, but like that's not interesting to hear after. Like,
they don't do so. The problem with it, if we could point out most of the other regions, and I think the LCK and the LPL have always been better. The LCK specifically, but The big thing is they would explain the things, and that is what the new players need. You don't have to do it in other regions, to be fair. If it's going to be the LCK and the LPL, you don't need to do little info dumps, because of the reality is the newer players and the people that are younger, are newer to the game, are not going to watch the LPL LCK. They're going to be watching NA.
That's what we talked about earlier, which is that's why I always harp on the broadcast. The broadcast specifically has not been good for a very long time. They've only just marginally started fixing things.
They haven't fixed anything. It's so much worse than it used to be.
Well, that's the problem.
I think the worst years were probably 2019 to 2021.
Look at it this way. Why would people need to go watch co-streamers? There really shouldn't be a world where you would want to watch a co-streamer over the official broadcast product.
It's actually
rather watch a guy behind a webcam talk to you about the game as it's going on, when you and yourself could just be watching the game through the official broadcast. Isn't that weird that you want to watch?
Well, that's actually what happens inside of the NFL. If we look at Monday Night Football, the Peyton show, the Manning show, the Manning cast is just Peyton Manning and Eli Manning.
No, but I'm saying, like, for someone like Riot, I don't really think they actually like the co-streaming model. They'd rather you watch the official broadcast. I mean, that's why they put on an actual broadcast product. That's the point of it. They don't want you watching a buttfuck nobody in his bedroom with a webcam.
If you want my honest opinion, they need to stream. It would be better if they had more, like, the games lasted longer. That would be the big thing. That is because if we look at football, it lasts a lot longer than the LCS does. The reality is, if the games lasted longer, they would be able to do my favorite thing that's ever happened, like favorite type of sports streaming, is Red Zone. Red Zone is a thing where essentially all they do is hop between game to game to game, showing things that have happened. That's what
we tried that. It failed. You know why it failed? Because they did it on Academy.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, they did Monday Night League on Academy. Yeah,
I didn't even know that happened. I didn't realize. But Red Zone is the single greatest sports casting show that exists. Everybody agree. It's probably the highest rated. I don't even have to look at it.
Oh,
it is.
I will say, Emily has a great personality. Emily is awesome.
I do like Emily. I'll agree with Emily too.
Yeah,
but
I think Mark has an interesting way of portraying his opinions too.
Mark Z.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like you come to him for those quirky, weird analysis that other people aren't able to give.
The problem
I actually like that. I watched
cannot
that
be
show
fixed
forever
until they fire everybody. That's my opinion.
That means you're basically admitting burn this to the ground, start over. Otherwise, it can't ever get better.
I agree. That's my opinion on it. I think that there's a lot of people that have been pretty much into the scene for so long. It won't work with them specifically because they're not good at their jobs. They're not funny. They're not entertaining. All they know is League. All they know is how to explain the game and how to make really awkward jokes. If they were better at just saying, this is what's happening, get some of those co-streamers on there. Get two of the coaches, get Cadrill on there in the broadcast and another person, and you'll have a lot better time because they won't just.
Well, they had Cadrill. Remember, he chose to specifically not be on the broadcast because he knows he's a bigger draw to the game than the actual broadcast itself.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I agree with that.
Yeah.
The thing is, you get
so you know it's basically all so that shows its personality that really grasps people.
It's not
he does like these weird, quirky things that appeals to like younger people. He puts on sunglasses and he switches jerseys midstream like that.
Yeah, but he's not over the top. Is the thing when you listen to his broadcast, he's not screaming.
Yeah.
He's a very calm, relaxed. He explains the game in a more methodical thing. So the color commentator for the what? I didn't hear what you said.
Good looking, better looking than you. You know?
Well, thank you for that. But I think that he's very good at explaining the game. He's very good at getting attention drawn to specific people. He explains in depth about the players. He doesn't just go on what's happening. He goes on what's happened in the past too. It's not specific statistics. He explains what they've been doing wrong, what they could improve on. And if they've done something different that they did in the past, he gives them props. If they're playing worse than usual, he discredits them. It's something he does.
Yeah, that was my big thing. We're like, I mean, it can't necessarily get better if the product of the LCS is bad. Like, because that's the main draw. If people would rather watch a guy in his bedroom from his webcam over the actual broadcast, that's a legit problem.
What they could do is
because then why are you paying casters at that point? Like that, there'd be a reason why they would not pay casters as much because they know the casters are less valuable.
So let's look at the NFL. The NFL, they've gotten a stranglehold. The co-streaming system is bad for them, and the reality is the reason it's bad for them is because they generate no money from them. They don't. All they do is keep LCS viewership alive, and they've given Casual a stranglehold because all he has to do is say, I get more money than just watching my own stream. Basing my stream. What they have to do, if they really wanted to make it work, is they need to pay him more than he gets on his own. He has to.
You know they're not going to do that.
Well, then they're not going to ever generate the money they need to. And because the reality is,
right there, the reason why they don't do that is because that's them admitting that they have a fucked up product. Right, it's very bad at that. They don't care about possible. They don't want to spend money. It's a company. And no, it's an ego thing. They know if they do that, they know they're admitting to him that their product is bad.
I don't think that's the case. I think the reason they're not doing it, and they look at Monty and Doa, the reason they didn't pay them is because people were willing to do under their price. They wanted to get paid at freelance numbers, and they weren't going to get that. Like, everybody wants to be able to get paid in a specific way.
We got to factor in, this is a rich company, but there's massive egos involved. That's always
the NFL. The NFL does not let anybody co-stream. People do not get to co-stream the NFL because they own the product.
Who is a fan directly of the NFL?
What?
You're a fan of the teams.
I'm not a fan of football.
No.
I agree with that.
No one's really a fan of the NFL itself. Yeah, no, more people, I would say, are a fan of the individual teams in the NFL. The NFL puts on a good product that makes people watch.
And the reason they have a good product is because they didn't allow this co-streaming stuff to happen in the first place. They need to cut co-streaming. I don't care if Casual quits. Find somebody with Casual's personality at the very least. Get them on the show.
Personalities. Where are you getting these people from?
There's a million of everybody in the world, dude. Everybody
so is there's more of me that exists.
You're probably one of the few people that doesn't have a million of them. You are a unique man. But
all right,
they need to cut these people out.
Mm-hmm. That's just my thing on the LCS. The broadcast is just, to me, they fixed the analytical desk part of it this year. It got a lot better, but that's even just this year when I thought they got a little bit better at something, they didn't fire La Tigress until the very end, and she was garbage. Like, why was she ever there? She's not good. She's terrible. Not because she's a girl. She's just not good. She was awful. Everyone viscerally said, "Please get her out of here."
The best,
the last bit of fan base they had, they kept saying, "Hey, I'm watching, but I can't watch her." People literally said, "I had to mute because she was talking." That means your fans are being like, "Hey, I don't like this person. Get rid of her." But they were like, "You know what? We'll ride her out to the end of the year," which I think is bad.
Yeah, the best what's it called that I've seen. The best interviewer, it was Cutie Cinderella. She is the best one that we've ever had.
Yeah, so people can't say it had nothing to do with being a girl. People liked Cutie Cinderella and people liked Emily. The people that were still watching LCS literally said, "I have to mute her to watch this."
Cutie Cinderella has a personality that everybody likes,
and she's white. Not,
shut up. And I think she comes up with, like, when I watch Freak interview people, I don't like his interview, but I saw him do something right before the casting. One of the guys was nervous, and he was calming him down before they talked, and I loved that. I don't like his interviewing, but his interviewing.
But you like Freak for his personality.
I don't like him for his personality anymore, but I did at one point.
It sucks that he had to get off Twitter because people kept sending him death threats about the game changes. Actually,
it's just I don't know. I like
fucking weird.
People, I don't like so many casters left. That's just the reality of it. I think they could improve on it, but they're not going to because they've introduced a lot of the best casters. Again, I will dominate. Casual, all these people could come onto the streaming desk. They could get Sneaky on there because people love when Sneaky gets on.
I know they don't like LS, but you could get LS to do it.
I can't stand LS, but I know that people like him.
He has a that's what they should do. They need the actual talent on the broadcast. They don't actually. So you're saying they have the talent in the wrong places?
I do think that's the reality of it. They have zero. If they fire every broadcaster, they don't need an analyst desk. I think it sucks. The analyst desk, what it should be, is the red zone, like I said. But they have to switch back to best of threes, unfortunately, to be able to do that.
That might happen now. There's 8 teams. That's possible now.
Is there only 8 teams now?
There's 8 teams now. Remember, EG and Golden Guardians are out. So
that
that's possible.
But that doesn't mean their positions aren't.
Well, it's a lot more easier to schedule 8 teams than
I'm
10.
saying I believe their positions are going to get filled. They're not just getting rid of the spots.
No. They said they're just going to run with 8 teams for right now.
Really?
And they'll potentially fill it for later.
I like that.
But he said it's corporate lingo. I don't know, honestly. But he said for right now it's going to be 8 teams.
I'm just going to say 3 things that I would do. I would increase it to best of threes, have games scheduled throughout the entire 3 days a week. Just copy football, honestly. Have a red zone thing with the analyst desk, and you can have Cajal and all those people, not Cajal, but have one of the shoutcasters on there. Not Cajals can be as a broadcast person inside of all the games. And then you have somebody who is somebody that would be good on a red zone type thing? You don't have multiple people in there. It's a one person thing. They go from game to game. You buy somebody from the red zone. You pay them a lot of money to explain how they do these things. Then you go.
I think Medic has always been very good at explaining those kind of things.
No, but what it is you switch from game to game. From game to game when a hype play happens. You don't watch every single game. That's what you do. And you switch from game to game, keep doing this. It'll be 2 specific broadcasts. A broadcast for each game, and it's only specific. That's the problem, is they don't get the luxury of being able to do that because of the lack of profitability. But that would be how I produce the LCS, because I think the NFL has the best entertainment broadcast in the league or in the world. I think they're just entertaining to do. The red zone. You have you watched Red Zone before?
No, but I know the idea. Highlights of it. Yeah,
it's just essentially play by play something that's happening. If there's a 4th down drive and they're going to go for it on 4th, they fail, or they get he jumps over there, and you can hear the casters explaining the game on top of the fact of hearing that. So you have multiple different casters. That's the big problem, is they couldn't do that because there's no way they could get a broadcaster for every game. That's the unfortunate part. I'd like. And the reason they can't get a broadcaster for every game is because there's not a lot of stability in all these teams. People don't watch these teams all the time. They just watch a specific amount of them. There's only a specific amount of them that drive viewership.
Right? And now we're going to move on to talking about Worlds 2023. Like I mentioned before, my other episode, Faker has now won his 4th World Championship. I remember when he won his 2nd back when I watched in 2015, and I was like, this guy's incredible. And then in 2016, he won again for a team that I was following all year, just for them to get to the finals, get to the first game 5 ever at World's history, just for Faker to knock them out. Then my team knocked out his team in 2017 with a 3-0, so that was also really weird. But then he also beat Ruler this year again, doing the same thing that Ruler did to him back in 2017. It's really weird how as everyone knows, I've been following Samsung Galaxy / Gen G for a very, very long time. Hopefully they can win a Worlds title ever. You know,
you started being a fan when Ruler got on the team, correct?
That was yeah. Or technically, it was when Core JJ was the ADC. They swapped Core JJ in summer, so I liked them in spring. I was like, okay, this has some personality. This has some strength here. Then that's when they put in, remember, Ruler and Wraith. Remember, it was Wraith first. Then it was Wraith and Core JJ, but they liked playing with Core JJ more. So right when they lost to TSM at Worlds, they just played with Core JJ forever after that point. That was just so weird how I followed a team that much and I got to the very last game and lost. That was really heartbreaking. That really
people watch teams. I mean, I think the biggest problem with Samsung is that there wasn't. I mean, that you're talking about before they got Core JJ support.
Ambition.
Juve was very
Crown.
Good for one split. For one split, this man was a god, and then he sucked. I don't even know can't remember what season that was, but this man went from being able to play
6.
carries,
playing
every single carry in the world. It was Worlds, and then the next year, this dude was god awful. And
it was just crazy. Like that happened last year too when the Eagles lost to the Chiefs. Like those kind of losses hurt. Like I've only ever experienced that a few times, or like when the Eagles lost to the Packers in 2008 when they could have made the finals. Actually, like those losses really hurt when you get to the very last hurdle and you lose. Like this year when Genji lost to BLG, I was like, you know what, I've kind of been to this. Like the one that hurt more was when they lost to EDG. They were one game away from making the finals. That one was like, really, come on.
I don't know.
I know the org can put good players together. I know the org has the right idea of what they want their Worlds win to look like. It just seems like they never. It's not the org itself. They give them good coaches. It's like the combination of players, they're all really individually talented for the most part. It's just never able to translate at the very crucial
I will say
moments.
They will never – a team that has Chovy as the mid laner will never be able to win the whole thing until he learns to play a different playstyle. His playstyle specifically does not translate into modern LCS.
So you got to factor in too when it comes to Gen G. We'll talk about them in a second with the World teams. Factor in, they were closer to making Worlds finals with BDD than Chovy. Remember, they were one game away from beating EDG to make it to the finals. But Chovy's a better player mechanically than BDD. So how is it they can make it further with BDD, but I may make it further with Chovy? Isn't that weird?
I could explain that, but if we're going to explain it
much more, because BDD's a much more. I think BD's just a much more smarter player. And he's also very talented himself. People got to factor in, it's not just about laning. If someone's talented and they're smart at the game, that's just as fine, honestly.
It's better if they Yeah. I mean, we can look at people like stupid, what's his name from Fnatic? That I always forget his name.
Reckless.
No, not Reckless. The middle
Featherman?
laner.
Back in the day, Featherman?
No, not back in the day. No, the current one.
The current one. Oh, Humanoid.
Niski. I was talking about Niski, who's not on that team anymore.
That was on Mad. Yeah,
Mad Lion.
Humanoid.
Sorry. But Niski, he was on Fnatic. My brain.
Yeah.
But Niski specifically has a playstyle. He's really terrible mechanically, and specifically 3-4 years ago when he switched over from C9 over to Fnatic, his playstyle, especially in his last year in Cloud9, his playstyle specifically, he is outmatched, outgunned every single game. But this man makes it work because he's always roaming, making proactive plays around the map. That's why you saw him on a lot of TF and stuff like that, is because he's always actively participating in skirmishes inside of the river, invading in the enemy jungler or making ganks on the enemy laners. Like, that's always what he does. He doesn't focus on laning. And that kind of shores up a lot of his weaknesses inside of the laning facility, because he is really not as good mechanically as the rest of the players, is that he's able to make those proactive plays around the map because he always plays pushing mid laners that are able to move around the map. That's like why I love watching.
Remember, played Silas, he beat Shahu pretty bad, but it didn't matter because the rest of his team is so bad, it didn't even matter. So even if he got leads, it doesn't matter because he himself can't translate those leads properly because, that comes with the territory playing league now. So, Worlds 2023 recap. Let's start with region by region. I said let's just do the LCS first because that's the region everyone's going to want to talk about anyway, because obviously it's the best region in the world, the best gameplay, best casters.
Is that what it is?
So, Team Liquid, Cloud9, NRG, and what was the other team we had sent, actually? Yeah, we sent.
What's up?
Oh, Golden Guardians. They got knocked out so early on. I mean, we'll just start with Golden Guardians. Golden Guardians basically kind of peaked at various moments throughout the year, and they lost to Team Liquid during the whole, the match before the fourth place match, and you already could tell that this team was just losing steam. They got knocked out by BDS, and now they're not going to be in Org anymore. So that just kind of finishes that. Let's start with Team Liquid.
Team Liquid.
I thought Team Liquid was terrible the whole year.
I
knew going in they'd be the worst team. I was like, this is a terrible team. They're about to get absolutely blasted every game, and that pretty much happened outside of the T1 game.
So the big thing about Team Liquid is I think they actually were a little better than they showed on side of the stage. I think that demotivation that they had and that ability to play against a lot of these teams, when they lost to stupid NRG, the team that played Team One would not have lost to them. That's not the team that showed up to that game, though. We had Appa, Appa played. He got solo killed by a stupid Palafox like 6 times.
Yeah.
And he played so well against Faker. It just doesn't even make sense to me. We have these people. We have Jan, who has leads, who has late game scaling ADCs that can't translate this into consistent damage because he doesn't know how to position, doesn't know how to dish out damage properly. And that is probably the biggest reason why they can't succeed as an org, is because he was bad. Jan was so bad at dealing damage. We look at that last team fight against Team One, where they got a engage onto the backline with Summit. He got onto the backline, but they were kind of pushed away from him. So Jan was able to free fire, but he got solo killed by he pretty much got solo killed by the Gumayushi on Ashe, I believe.
Yeah, so that team fight was also bad because their target selection was very bad. So Summit is engaging on the Jace that they can easily kill instead of the Ashe that's pumping out all this damage.
You couldn't get on the Ashe. So the biggest there's 2 plays that really made this functionally not work. Is when he went in, I think he was playing Cassante. I just looked it up. So he played Cassante, got into the back line, went on to a Jace, and got kind of cut off from his team, because if you look at the very beginning of the fight, there was an Ashe arrow that went into the back line and hit Appa, stunning him for the most of the fight. He got stunned out of the fight. They were able to pretty much bring down Summit a lot of the way. And by the time they were able to get onto, Appa was able to get back into the fight, APA, the entire team was pretty much lost. Ashe had melted the Summit. He had pretty much just walked up to Gumayushi, who was not auto-attacking, by the way. He was not auto-attacking consistently enough. Just walked up, was able to burn them down, and they just turned the game around from there and won straight off that. T1 was never in control of that game until the game was over. And that's the craziest part. They won one team fight and ended the game exactly. Because on top of the fact, Team Liquid did not control the waves.
Well, I think a lot of that momentum, a lot of the momentum Team Liquid had throughout the year just came from Summit. If Summit is their best player and he's not having a good game, whole team falls apart. Piosik stepped up at Worlds in a pretty massive way, but people got to understand when you're playing jungle, if most of your lanes are losing, it's very hard to play the game from that state. Especially
did you see what Summit said about
APA?
APA? I'll call him whenever I want, dude. Appa. I'm gonna call him that just because you had an annoyed look on your face. Did you see what Summit said about Appa?
He couldn't play many champions.
He said he was what am I supposed to do with a Heimer or what was it a Ziggs one trick? That's the words he said. And that's funny because first of all, I don't want to blame him because the reality is APA came in the middle of the year and played
because Harry was just a bust.
He was terrible and he brought them into a situation where they made it to Worlds. You can't expect too much from him. He didn't translate well. He wasn't able to communicate very well. So they brought him in. He did pretty well for the team and what's it called? And they were able to do something and make it to Worlds at least. So it shouldn't blame him. But on top of the fact, he was unable to transition into a larger champion pool, and the large majority of their teamfight losses were off the back of him.
But even in the LCS, even after he came in for Harry, he never looked very good.
Yeah, but
he came in week 4, and that's a lot of weeks. That's a lot of games. He had a lot of playoff series. He never really looked impressive at all.
He was never
looked
good.
Even great. He was never good to begin with.
I think blaming the guy who brought you to the Worlds is something that doesn't sit well with him.
I think Piosik and Summit got them to Worlds.
They got them to Worlds, but if they played with Harry still towards the end of the season, they would not have made it to Worlds. That's the reality of it. Switching him out got him there.
Since Summit was the best player, and if he's not playing good, that's already a huge detriment. Piosik, he stepped up at Worlds. I think APA was just after he lost his confidence after losing to T1, he was just trash. Core JJ has been bad for a long time. Core
JJ was actually one of the worst supports at Worlds, if not the worst.
Core JJ was bad last year. I just don't. Why did they keep him last year?
Bad
last year.
Because the reason you kept him last year is because he was literally arguably one of the best supports in the West for like 3 straight years before that. That's why you kept him.
So I knew Team Liquid would just crash and burn. Once I left T1, I was like, I've seen it before. If a team if a weaker team plays good against a really good team and they lose against a really good team, when they play against someone similar to them, they lose to that team, their confidence is shot.
League is specifically a very mental game. I think if he didn't have Jan in his lane, we'd see a little bit different game style from Core JJ. But when you play with somebody as bad as Jan, and I want to say, I don't like blaming a specific person for a team being bad, but Jan is literally, if Appa was down there with his Ziggs, he would have done better. Just every single game.
Did people see the way Jan played Aphelios against Gam? I might have had a stroke watching.
They kept giving Jan Aphelios like he's a late game ADC. He's not. He
couldn't play anything early game. You might as well just put him on something late game because he's not going to pump out any early game. The problem is he doesn't pump out the damage. He doesn't pump out the damage that's necessary to be able to play. He can't play anything early game because he has no presence. What else can you do?
You can play a
ADC. Happen.
You can play an ADC that has long range engage like Ashe and Jhin.
He did. They gave him that.
They gave him
so bad at early
game often.
Yeah, but he has no early game presence. He's not going to do anything early game.
Ashe and Jhin are the only possible. Those are the only ADCs I'd ever give him. I would never give him another ADC besides that.
Because you're saying to straight up just only give him utility.
Only give him utility ADCs with long range engage that allow your team to be able to do something. If you give him something like Aphelios, it requires him to pretty much not. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do any. What's it called? Any utility. He has one little snare that comes out of gravity.
Yeah.
For the most part, all he does is auto attack. All he does is auto attack, and then he has his ult, which he throws at you, and it does a lot of damage. It's just a damaging champion who scales really well. If you put him on something like that, his positioning is bad. He's not going to be able to get to he's not going to kill the front line. He's going to not kill the back line because he does not want to go up and auto attack him. Or he will try and go up and auto attack him, which you saw with APA. With that first Team Liquid game, and he's going to get melted by the better ADC.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it's such a detriment early on that if you give him something like Aphelios or Jinx, then he might have a chance.
Jinx is fine with me because Jinx is a lot easier to make work.
But
give him Aphelios.
If he gets gapped so hard early on, you're so far behind.
You give him Ashe, you give him Jhin. Both of them scale really well. Mm-hmm. You give him Jinx. She's very easy to make through because she doesn't have to. Target selection doesn't really matter with her for the most part because you have rockets that will clean up for the most part. If you give him Aphelios, he is auto-attacking the wrong person, positioning incorrectly, so he will get engaged on, which means he has to kite and not auto-attack for a little bit. And that's what we see every single time with him. He does not know how to position. He's never in the correct position, the correct part of the map. He's late half the time. He was in that fight, but he was too far away to contribute to a team fight. And we saw him walk up through the river, I believe, against Ash in that Team 1 game, and he was pretty much just melted from there because they were able to get onto him. Like, he makes mistakes.
Let's go to Cloud9. I mean,
Cloud9 was
coming to the World Championship. I knew they'd be pretty bad. Like, if I'm being honest here, I could spend here being another 2 hours from how bad they were at the World Championship. I mean, Fudge has not looked outside of spring, where Cloud9 dominated in spring. Ever since MSI 2023, they've just looked pretty bad, right? So, like, Fudge didn't do that well at Worlds. Blabber had not just horrible mispositioning, just never pressured the right lane. And that was the biggest problem with Worlds overall, was that junglers never pressured the right places, ever. I seen the only people that really ever did it well was Owner. No one ever knew where to be on the map to exactly pressure that specific moment. Blabber was just the worst at it. He just mindlessly ganked top for no reason whatsoever, other than whatever, because reasons, right? It's just a fat ching chong wong dong fuck. He's garbage. Get him out of here.
Okay, man.
Nothing about that fucking loser.
You need to stop with that.
But he did. His only good best of 3 was against Fnatic, but then again, if he's your carry, as we've seen, then
So let's point out my biggest positives.
Forgot the bot lane. So Blabber never played towards Berserker, even though Berserker was trying his best to get anything happening. And Sven's not a support. You can't. I mean, I
want to point out my big thing is, if I want to point out my biggest things, I think Sven is actually a pretty solid support. I think he's pretty good. His supporting was probably the best out of the NA Worlds players. Besides, Ignore played
but the thing here is, there's a cap to that. If he faces anyone better, he's just going to get destroyed.
Well, that's what happens when bad players are bad. I think
that's why he's not really a support. You saw just the mindless things he was doing. He's just bad.
He makes poor decisions, but that's kind of how you turn the game around.
You can't make poor decisions as a support.
You can, because Hillisang makes it work pretty much either.
Hillisang doesn't count as a human being. Let's just be honest about that.
Hillisang, pretty much all the successful supports, you'll see them get cat out a lot, because that's how they have to do it. The best supports in the world, which is pretty much just stupid
Carrier,
doesn't have to do that, because he's just essentially a mid laner that can play support.
Yeah, so my thing with Cloud9 is the play style is really bad. Just the decision making around the map was bad. The whole team was jank. Like, you knew after they signed Sven last year, after the whole LS experiment failed, you knew that Sven wasn't going to be a long-term support. It was only just a temporary support, and they only kept Sven because Berserker. They only kept Sven because Berserker specifically wanted to play with Sven. That's the only reason why they kept him. They were going to get rid of him last year. They were going to get him support last year.
I think Sven is good. I think that's the big thing. I think the problem with the game is that Fudge got a lot of resources funneled into him. We saw him do good on the Jax game against but for the most part, we don't see Fudge succeed a lot because he's not that good. Blabber is making proactive plays around the map, but it's not ever in the correct positionings. He's always
proactively bad decisions.
It depends on which games it is. He did really good. The Mad Lions game, he did okay.
That's Mad Lions. It doesn't count. That team's bad. They're a free win for anyone.
Yeah,
that just doesn't count.
He rotated around the map properly in that game, and then
this is how I look at things. If that's a bad team, you can do anything you want against a bad team because they're trash.
No, because if they make good decisions against a bad team, it doesn't make the decision bad.
No,
at the same time as when you make a bad decision, if you make a bad decision, I've played a lot of games where somebody will walk up and be like, "I'm going to go split bottom lane, and I'm going to try and end the game." I'm like, you can't do that because they could recall and stop you. And then we fight them at Baron.
Yes, but that's the thing.
They don't recall, and then we ace them.
They're bad. They're not going to capitalize on it. Even though that's a good idea.
That's the difference is you can make bad decisions and they can look good, and you can make good decisions and they look good.
No, well, I'm saying
you can tell the difference based off your understanding of the game. And I think
like Mad, it doesn't matter what decisions you make against them. They're trash. They're not going to capitalize on anything. As we saw.
I'm saying that his decisions were good, and the reason they were able to take over the game.
You saw that in the games.
He played well in that game. I'm saying
that's only going to happen in that game. That's it.
You don't. What did he do? What did he do that was bad? all you can say.
He didn't
The
pressure
reality
bot
is
when they had a bot lane lead. He didn't pressure
they
mid at
have
all when they had a
bot
mid
lane
lane lead.
leads. If we look at the Jax game where he pressured for Jax, it was the correct decision to pressure top. The reason it was the correct decision is because it was Jax versus Gwen. It's a
No, it was
top
also
lane.
because Fudge was winning top. That's just his brain.
Well, no,
anyone
listen,
know that.
That's not true. You
Yes,
pressure
it is.
top.
If Jax is pressuring against Cassante, you go up there to gank him.
It was
because
Gwen.
You can obviously, So
you pressure Gwen inside of a Jax lane because if Gwen falls behind against a Jax, she can't team fight, she can't side lane, she can't do anything. The reality and the reason why you do that, it was a smart decision from him, and he centralized again. Whether or not that's a smart decision every time is up to debate. He didn't do he pressured top too much. I'll agree with that, but it was the correct decision.
Those
in that
decisions you're talking about, whether they're good or bad, anything's going to work against bad teams like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying it was the correct decision against any team.
Technically.
Not technically. It was the correct decision.
Because if that
against
team is
anybody.
good enough to know that that's coming, it won't matter. That's how Asian teams function. If they know what you're going to do, because they'll ward effectively, they'll have their jungler do specific things. If they know what's coming,
well, the reason they win is because they 2v1 the jungle gank.
Oh yeah,
that's why they win. I mean, it's just the reality of it.
Genji is fucky T1 bastard. So Cloud9 just abysmally bad.
I don't know. I think if they could keep the bot lane and they could honestly keep the
their team is going to be Fudge, Blabber, Jojo Pion, Berserker, and Vulcan. That's going to be their team for next year.
Oh, that's not a bad team.
You can't keep Sven. He was a fill support anyway.
He was good, and he was. I don't understand.
Better you can get. You don't have to.
Like who?
You can get way
name
better.
off 5 supports in NA that are better than him.
The support they got is actually better.
Vulcan is better. That's why I wasn't upset about it.
Unless
there's not many supports you can name off that are better than him.
You could grab Lebrov. He's the best support in the world.
Lebrov is such a goofball, dude. Honestly, I'm going to point out Sven was probably one of the best Western supports this world.
Only because the LCS is bad. He has asked.
No, I said Western. I'm including LEC. He's better than Hillsang. He was better than like what supports could you say?
He is a god.
Yeah, I think the reality is he was as good as you expected him to be, and he was a little better than everybody expected him to be. He's a lot better than last year, and it's because he put in the hours. You could tell.
I think that's because the support pool drastically fell off. I think in a normal year when you have good supports, he's not even considered top anything.
His playmaking was not that bad. And he was able to play ranged enchanters relatively okay. It just he made some dumb mistakes.
Like, do you think if Core JJ played somewhat at his peak that
no, he's worse than Core JJ at his peak. I'm not disagreeing with that. He's not one of the best supports, but he was able. He's a serviceable support to above average on specific days. And he can play playmaking supports pretty well. He makes really smart decisions for the most part, unless he's playing an enchanter, then we see what he does there. But we'll see him make a lot of smart decisions around the map, and I do enjoy watching him play. He's not that bad.
Wee woo.
Yeah, so you know what I want to point out? I think you're dumb. You're stupid.
Well, you know what? I think you're white.
I am white, but I'm saying
let's go to NRG. Who made?
Want to go to NRG? I'm going to go to NRG. We can talk about NRG a lot. I think the reason that they were able to do so well at Worlds is because of contracts. Contracts played extremely well. Contract played really well. He made proactive. He was the best jungler. Him and stupid Palafox are the best 2 players.
I think outside of that, and I think I agree. Palafox and Contracts played really well. We got to look at NRG's schedule. And this is the problem with the World format is the whole Swiss stage thing. They faced Weibo. They got clobbered by Weibo. Then they faced Team Liquid, someone they faced all year, not just on stage, in Scrim, so they know how to beat them. Mad Lions, who's just jank as fuck. So the only match they ever had to win is just the G2 one, and they got it. They won the clutch match that needed to get into Worlds.
I agree. They wouldn't have won if they played.
We'll talk about the actual world system later on, but I'm talking this world specifically has an asterisk to it because depending on which team you're talking about, you have to talk about the teams they faced that got to their position. NRG faced nothing but Western teams, essentially, to get to the quarterfinals.
Well, I mean, the only team that could have taken their spot was the only Eastern team that didn't make it, which was either not KT, was the team KTB. That's my Brian's.
DK.
DK. If they faced DK, they would have lost. That's the reality of it. But they faced a bunch of Western teams, and the only people that could have beat them was one Eastern team or the single best Western team, which they showed. There's a very small chance in any format that you're not going to have to beat one Western team. G2 was the best Western team. They beat them.
And
They
they choked on that day pretty bad.
They did.
ran it
G2 is
down.
better than them.
And that's the thing with the tournament. It's based off this. When people look back at this in context, dude, in many years, they'll be like, NRG made it over G2. You look at who they faced? Do people look at who G2?
They made it over G2 because they beat G2. G2 had every right to beat them. And they did.
Yeah, and that's the thing is people will tell you NRG is better, but they didn't even predict for NRG to win in those games.
NRG played better, and it's not because G2 played good.
Like, I'll ask people this. Remember that game G2 beat BLG, that really hard-fought back-and-forth one where it took them to get to the Game 3 scenario, to get out of the Swiss stage? Anyone listening to this in the podcast, listen to this. Do you think NRG could play that well in that Game 2 to get into a Game 3? Because when they faced Weibo, again, they got, like, fisted hard. Like, so when people tell me that NRG is better, it's like, are they? Or did G2 just kind of play bad on that day? Because that's just terrible.
G2 played. So the reality is that's kind of how context works for games, but it doesn't matter. The possibilities don't matter. The reality is G2 went in there disrespectfully. They thought they got the easy matchup. You could see it when they got the group stage draw. They went in there like, yes, we got NRG.
And they got first rotation pick Belvet and Syndra.
They got absolutely demolished. They deserved their loss. It's because they went in there disrespectfully, probably didn't practice enough. Or
based off their scrim records, they were 12-2 against them.
Yep. And the games that mattered, they lost. It's because they went in there disrespectfully. They thought they were better. They didn't need to practice for them. And they lost because Contrix made proactive plays around the map. And Palafox did well.
That's the thing, though. I thought G2 was the best Western coming to this event, but I did say this about G2, which was Yike having its first international event is going to be pretty tough because just like with Blabber that I mentioned earlier, and I love G2 as well. I love G2 a lot. But Yike made very bad decisions on the map. Yike never knew what to do when behind. Yike never knew where to pressure. Any Eastern jungler that put him in a position, he just didn't know what to do. He kind of just like, I don't really know what he did. He kind of just turned it into a potato when he was losing. But that's kind of to be expected when you have a guy's first world championship. But it goes to show you these were issues that were going to pop up when there's a guy's first world championship. That's just going to happen, you know? So, well, that's the LCS at Worlds 2023. I mean, Cloud9, they faced, obviously, Mad Lions, which is free for anyone. Then they faced LNG, then they faced T1. That's already pretty hard right there.
I really loved Fnatic. I'm not going to lie. I don't think Energy was good, but I loved watching them. They were very fun to watch.
Oh, I will say this about them. It's really good to finally see an NA team play proactive because many worlds, you see them just like play this weird passive late game scaling style.
They tried to copy LCK playstyle because LCK plays that playstyle because if they get to late game, they're going to win because they have the best players in the world. LCS, they have Dokla top as the single greatest team from NA this year. Dokla top, I'm going to point out, I won't disrespect
pretty
Dokla.
well in Worlds.
I won't talk too disrespectfully at Dokla because he played pretty well. I mean, we saw what he did with against Broken Blade. Dude dumpstered him.
I thought the bot lane was a big problem for NRG. They were running it down in some games.
It's crazy because I don't really know who you could replace them with. That's the only thing I could say. Who could you replace the bot lane with? Because there's not many possibilities.
Oh, they have the replacement. It's going to be Huhi. I'm not kidding.
Huhi is going on that team?
It's going to be an FBI Huhi reunion.
I guess Ignar that's okay, but
Ignar is joining Excel.
Ignar was good, though. Like, I didn't have a problem with him. But Huhi is pretty good, too. So it's not really, more like a side grade than anything for me.
All right, let's go to the LEC. So you had...
give me a few minutes. I'm pee my pants.
Okay, so... All right, so I will just talk to you guys about... before we go to the LEC, we will talk to you guys about the LCS, actually. So the other issue that I've had with, LCS teams, at the World Championship was that they would specifically play this very passive kind of scaling late game style, which it's not really how most world championships are played. I mean, you look back at a lot of world championships, you look at just the style that the other regions are using, the strong ones like the LPL and the LCK, and they're playing these more very aggressive play styles that want to make things happen on the map. So it was nice to see that, NRG actually utilized that play style and they try to make things happen. but that also is a massive issue when you're talking about, utilizing that playstyle with a team that just has lesser players than the other stronger teams with that playstyle specifically. Another big indicator of the Cloud9 run at Worlds was the Fnatic series, where they obviously had a really, really big lead in game 1 against Fnatic in their best of 3, but then they were struggling to win with the 10,000 gold lead, so you knew in games 2 and 3 they were going to get clobbered. But all right, let's go back. Let's go to the LEC. So they sent BDS, Mad Lions, Fnatic, and G2. So let's start with BDS. The only reason why BDS were at Worlds is because Adam and Crowny. Let's be honest here. And then Adam turned into their Sway-Though best player at Worlds. Basically, if he wasn't winning, then they would just lose. And the person that also got them to Worlds was Crowny. He had a terrible World Championship. Keep in mind, this is his first World Championship. Keep in mind, but, the rest of the team is just bad for the most part. LeBron is probably one of the worst supports I have ever seen in my life. He's just straight up dog shit. I mean, Sheo, his first World Championship, same thing with Blabber, same thing with Yike, dealing with the pressure on the map. He only pathed towards top. He got completely gapped in Sheo got gapped by River as well. And and BDS not Golden Guardians out. Like, this is a shit team. And like,
let's point out one of the big things, like we look at the Mad Lion series versus BDS. We saw a lot of Vi actually going this is a big reason as to why another team that I want to point out later on had the same problems. It was Weibo versus whatever the semifinals was. My brain's not working. That specific thing.
BLG.
Yeah, I'm really bad at names, so if we go to that, we saw a lot of the similar matchups with that, as to where you would have a engaging jungler who would make proactive plays around the map, and how they counteracted that was they just had an invading jungler. We saw that. We saw go in with Bel'Veth. They invaded. Vi couldn't do anything. Vi was down by a lot of gold, a lot of pressure was taken off the map because she couldn't do anything, and allowed them to passively scale. The Garen man didn't get to do anything. There was nothing he could do because they took out the person who put him ahead. They couldn't. Yeah. Essentially, they couldn't give Adam any resources because the jungler was taken out of the game. And that is one of the
happened a lot at Worlds, though. Remember, it happened a lot for Sheo. He got jungle gapped really bad.
Yeah, but that was the first. It's not the first time, but it was the biggest time that I saw where he got counter invaded. That was the big thing. Counter jungling is a direct counteractive playstyle to what's it called? To a ganking jungler. We saw that with a lot of teams. If you're a ganking jungler, you can either counter invade and engage on them, or counter invade after a gank and put them behind. So if they don't get the kill on that gank, they're behind by like 1k gold to the enemy jungler.
But we all knew that if Adam doesn't carry them, they were just kind of cooked. Now, their schedule wasn't that bad. They had JDG, obviously they're gonna lose, Mad Lions, free win, and then DK.
They lost.
Yeah, DK were back too. Like that's the difference between like Western bad and Eastern bad. An Eastern team being bad is much more different than a Western team being bad. That's the biggest thing. Now, back in the day, when we used to watch World Championships, if there was a bad Western team and a bad Eastern team, you just coin flip it. You'd be like, okay, there might be a chance they could win here. Now that's not even the case anymore. That's going to show you the gap is even bigger in that case.
I mean, that was only the case for like 3 seasons.
But at least that was something.
It was only the case from season 8 to season 10 is where Western teams could beat Eastern teams, and that was when G2 was good.
Yeah, I'm going to factor in now. The LCS hasn't actually beaten the LCK or LPL in a very long time at all in a single game. The only game that they've won against the LCK is when EG beat T1 randomly. They've not beaten the LPL since like 2020, actually. MSI.
I think my biggest problem,
which is so much worse than them now. It's really apparent.
Well, it's because the Western teams just don't like. The only reason that EU was able to compete for all those years is because they stacked 1 to 2 teams. They were never actually good as a region. They were good as a top 2 team. If the 3rd seed they sent every year pretty much sucked, and it's because there's really good players inside of the LEC. There are really good players, but there's not
they're all just
a
so
lot
spread out.
They're spread out. So what they did inside, like we could look at the G2 series on the G2 team. You could argue every single player in their team was the best at their position for years.
Yeah.
Every single year. That's not something you should see.
Let's go to Mad Lions. I just want to get them out of the way. Mad Lions to me are kind of what Weibo were. They're just mixed matched play styles that just do not work. They just don't work. These play styles specifically do not work. And then Mad Lions, I guess you could say, this is kind of I'm not surprised this was a result. I knew they're dog shit. I knew they would come up and lose every game. So I'm not surprised that they lost all the games. I'm like, I was just surprised that they had a game where their mid laner is 8-0. He solo killed Xiaohu like 4 times in a row. And if you can't even win from that position with your Silas that far ahead, burn your whole team down, piss lighter fluid on it, and throw a match on it. Because that's bad.
I think. And let's point out. I want to point out what my biggest problem with Western teams is.
4 times. If you have a Silas and he beats your Ahri that hard, the game's over. Give that to Faker. Give that to Chovy. Give that to anybody. The game's over.
Well, no. If Faker was on that team, I want to point this out. If Faker was on that team, they would still not win. And the reason they wouldn't win, I'll point this out right now, is because the fundamental flaw with the Western teams is the coaching systems suck. The coaching systems inside of the Western teams, and the reason they're bad is because every single one of the coaches is not understanding how to proactively take a lead and use it. You can see a lot of them switch to, so they get a lead, they either continue laning and switch to a side lane and make it late to team fights. You could see a lot of these Eastern teams, when they get their mid laner, they will essentially, they won't really make proactive plays around the map unless it's centralized either on that player or it's on a weak side of the map. They won't allow that player to be caught out. They won't put over push. They will. And what I think a lot of teams need to do for more often is they will slow push a lane. They'll kill about 3 to 4 minions and then start rotating back to the team. They'll try and make it to where the side lanes will push to the enemy laners, but they won't push but they don't have to push themselves. You don't want to push the turret. That's a big thing. If you push the turret, the lane automatically resets and it's pushing at you now. Mm-hmm. If you kill 3 minions, make it to where you have a 3 minion advantage, it will push to them slowly and you can actually gravitate towards your entire team. You'll lose a little bit of CS, but for the most part, you'll still be able to do stuff.
Yeah, my thing is if you have an Eastern team and that Silas is almost 10 kills ahead, I mean, the game's over.
Yeah, it's an Eastern team, not an Eastern player. I want to point this out.
Yeah, and that's my biggest problem is that's all the problems with the West right there in that game. Not just with Mad Lions. Mad Lions had these problems all year. The fact that if you have a person that far ahead and you don't know how to win the game is just, how do you ever fix these problems?
So let's look at G2. I want to point out G2. G2 is the only Western team.
We'll go to G2 after we'll talk about Fnatic then, because G2 is going to dominate the rest of the conversation anyway, okay?
Are they?
Okay. Yeah, I imagine. So let's go to Fnatic. I mean,
Fnatic could have been a lot better than they were.
They had a very good shot at beating Weibo. They threw against Weibo very bad. They actually could have been in quarters, actually. They didn't look good against LNG. They looked kind of jank against GAM. That's only because GAM is that much worse.
They didn't look good against Cloud9. I will point that out. I didn't actually like them against Cloud9. We saw Fudge dominate. What's his name?
Oscar
Yeah. Just completely domination. And the reason they were able to pull that back is because the entirety of the focus of these games essentially went to top lane. If you look at a lot of these games, they started focusing a lot of their attention towards the top side of the map, and that is why these were able to happen. I mean, Blabber, Razork was bad. Razork was bad the entire.
I think Razork was good. Sorry, I think Razork was
my brain was not working.
Making
Razork was
anything happen.
The only reason they're able to win. I'm sorry for it. He made really proactive players around the map, and that was actually why they were able to do anything. For the most part, they were outgunned everywhere. But Razork single-handedly carried that series back.
Oh, I forgot. Remember Noah was only ever really good on Aphelios? Remember they let Noah have Aphelios in game 3? Where you got
Noah was bad. I think Noah was the single most overrated ADC. If you look at a lot of these teams, people actually thought he was a pretty high caliber player.
Yeah, people were talking about this guy like he was Berserker or something.
You would think you'd see if you give Noah his Ezreal, it's over. Like, no, if you give Noah his Ezreal, he's going to be average because he's an average player. He plays a pretty solid amount of champions, but he's not a game deciding ADC, but like we've seen a lot of people.
Right.
You can see it in history. We've had a lot of ADCs that were able to take over the game. Like not Prey wasn't one of those, but we could see people like Piglet in season 3 was able to do that. He had the ability when he got resources, he could take over the game. It generated a lot of pressure around the map towards him, so they couldn't focus any side lanes. With this team specifically, you don't have to gank bot lane because Noah, even if he's ahead, is not going to do that much. He's not going to take over the game, and you're still going to have a chance.
So that was my thing with Fnatic is, like, they lost pretty handily against BLG and LNG, right? But against Weibo and Cloud9, I mean, like, if they didn't throw at that Baron against Weibo, they're in quarters. Like, the whole series is over, essentially. That's why when we get to Weibo, I'm just going to, I can't wait to just eviscerate that dog shit into the dirt. But when it comes to Fnatic,
they made Worlds Finals. You can't eviscerate them.
Oh, God, I will. Oh, don't worry. The arguments are in my head already. But Fnatic, I just don't know. Like, they kind of did a little bit better than I thought. They did a little bit better than I thought they were going to be coming out. I thought coming in, they were going to lose almost every game too, honestly. Now, they had a harder schedule, I will say that. But when you're looking at how they could have made it out of this, there's a world. But I think the Humanoid and Razork synergy is just so bad. It's just like, I don't know why these two are so together. Don't know why they keep doing it. They just like torturing themselves because this is the reason why they haven't got rid of him. Humanoid's contract is so big that moving it is only just going to cause more issues, kind of like the traditional sports contracts. You can't really move them because there's so many other issues involved with that. So that's Fnatic. All right, so let's go to G2. Since you were talking about G2 earlier.
My man didn't even talk about... Did you talk about Matt? No, you did talk about Mad Lions. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, Mad Lions is, trash.
I forgot about that.
That's pretty much sums up Mad Lions.
G2, I think the biggest thing that I like about them is we saw them inside of the what team did they beat that I didn't expect them to beat? It was the
Weibo?
No, the other team.
They beat BLG in that best of 3 at least once.
Yeah. What I was saying, if you see the games that they won, the reason they were able to do is even when they were behind, they were able to make really quick decisions to engage a team fight, which I think is why I think they were the best team in the West. They would have been able to make it to semi-quarters and honestly take a few games, if not win the series against Weibo, because I think they were arguably a
so this was G2 schedule. Dick plus Kia.
Yeah.
They were winning that game. The only thing bad in that game was the Baron steal that they let happen. But other than that, obviously pretty good game. The Weibo game was extremely back and forth, but they had a commanding lead in that game too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they faced Gen.G. Like, they're going to lose to Gen.G, obviously. They got pretty destroyed by Gen.G, for being honest here. They lost to NRG, which was their ticket in the quarterfinals. And then they lost to their final team they lost to was BLG. But keep in mind, I don't know what was this year with Worlds and MSIs. Everything kept having a run back. Remember, they faced Gen.G and BLG in its exact same order at MSI. Just don't put that out. And they lost every single time.
Not on purpose. But
I'm just saying that's a coincidence. Just saying.
It is a coincidence, but don't make it out to be like it wasn't.
What's crazy at MSI was they actually won games. They won a single game of Gen.G and a single game of BLG here. And there were moments in those series early on in the year that they could have maybe brought it to a game 5. For some reason here, when you saw them not really get ahead in the way that they thought the game would go, it just was over for them. I think that is mostly due to Yike not understanding how to pressure the map properly. Yeah,
we saw them get behind against Weibo. They were able to come back from that.
Yeah, but the issue here is other people were ahead enough in that game to make.
No, they were behind completely. The reason they were able to come back is because, and I want to point this out, it was because of decisive shot calling to engage a team fight. Just instantaneous, they were able to do that.
Yeah, because
brought back a team fight.
Yike was just on Maokai. I mean, all he had to do was just press R. I think other people had more priority engage in that specific game for that to happen. Like, the thing with G2 that I really hated was I just hated how badly Yike really just crumbled under the pressure. That's pretty much it. I think I wouldn't even say they got a bad draw. They should have beaten NRG. I mean, just losing that to screw over the whole turn, because you knew when they drew BLG, it's over. Like, you knew it's over. You just hope that they play a good series. That's what you hope for.
If you look at why the biggest reason as to why they lost, first of all, a lot of
bad drafting. I'll say bad drafting too. The drafting was terrible.
I mean, they got Jax, you got very common matchups. You got Jax versus, you always say bad matchups to be.
I mean against NRG specifically, their drafting was so bad.
They got Jax into into Cassante. They got Belveth into Vi, who is literally one of the most common matchups inside of the group stages.
I think Belveth is really overrated this World Championship.
Belveth is a very good invader, and that's why you pick her. You invade her into hyper engaging ADCs, and that's literally some of the most important matchups that happened inside of Worlds were decided by playing Belveth and invading a Vi, because she's not able to do her early, and she's mostly focused on trying to hyper far go into Go into ganking. You play Belveth into that, invade them, and there's nothing they can do. But I really liked what he did with that. I think Belveth was a good choice. I think all around they had probably a better team, but the reason they lost that is because of losing around the map to no way what. I don't know. What you're saying.
No, this comp is terrible.
You always say that.
Back and remember, I had to go back and remember the actual pick and bans of it. So if you're watching this on Spotify, you can see this. If the podcasting platform you're on offers video, you can see this too. Okay, this is terrible. Now I remember why it was bad. I knew there was Belveth here, but I realized how dog shit this is. So when you're looking at it, so you go, it goes, wait, it goes 1, then 2, then 2. Yeah, okay. So I made sure I had the rotation right. So NRG saved their final picks for the bot lane, right?
Is that true? That's shifted. Are you sure that's the way they did it?
Shifted?
Well, no, that's just not.
I'm trying to see what the priority was on there.
It was they picked bot lane first.
Oh, they show. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so G2's problem right here is you revealed your bot lane first. Right there. That's already a pretty bad bot lane to begin with, too. We're talking Kai'Sa Rel is pretty bad.
Kai'Sa Rel is
so
good.
All you do right here. Yeah, picking it first, not what you want to do.
Yeah, but it's not good. They didn't counter them. They played stupid Tom Kench setup.
They just countered. They picked this first, and they went Nico Cassante, which destroys that.
No,
So already you lose a
How
bot
are you
lane.
going to kill Kai'Sa with either one of those? She can disengage against a lot of that stuff.
What are you talking about? Nico can just go. You could just use her W and throw her E.
She's gonna get on to Kai'Sa that way. If anybody gets CC, if she auto attacks once, she can instantly dodge it. That's the reality of how.
If Rel jumps in with her, what's the thing where Rel jumps in where she uses her legs, her horse? It's the Q, right?
Are you talking about when she jumps and lands and knocks people up, or
when Rel jumps in, Nico just uses her E and it completely is
no, it doesn't, because you still go. You don't get stopped.
You still go, but the problem here is you're
not stunned. You're snared. So what if Rel gets her jump off? She's going to get the whole combo.
Yeah,
because she's going to jump in during the jump. She's going to use her ult, which is going to knock everybody up. Then they're going to get knocked up again.
They countered their bot lane with this, and this works. This right here works very well into that. I just don't get why you first pick bot lane. First of all, I don't know why you ban Renata Glass.
Bot lane. What you
ban? I don't get why you ban Renata. Renata against this is disgusting.
Renata is very good with Vi. If you have Renata, you want to use. I mean, if you have a deep engaging AD or jungler or anybody really like Wukong, you play Renata. Yeah. You put the W on her when she goes in because she has a chance to be able to, even if she gets instantly killed, she gets to stay alive for a few more seconds and maybe even revive. That's why you play Renata with that. That's the reason they probably did that.
There's no reason why to ban her. There's no reason to ban. First of all, they banned Orianna when they already saw the bot lane, and it's like, what?
Orianna, you ban Orianna because she's busted, dude.
No, they ban Orianna themselves. I'm saying
that's what I'm saying. You ban her because she's busted. Everybody, no one wants to play against her.
I still don't get the Belveth pick here because Belveth is terrible on all these guys.
Actually worked, I think, 3 out of 4 times against Vi this tournament. The reason it's a direct counter to Vi. The reason you play Belveth is because you can counter invade, what's it called?
Why pick Kai'Sa? I thought Kai'Sa was so overrated. I'm glad T1 exposed how bad that was. You could pick Jinx, you could pick Aphelios, you could pick Caitlyn, you could pick Zeri.
So
there's so many better champs to play. He picked Ashe. Ashe destroys Kai'Sa. That's not even
Kai'Sa
destroys her.
Do you actually think Kai'Sa's not one of the best dueling ADCs?
I'm saying there was like 5
if you put any of those ADCs in a solo lane against Kai'Sa, she murders them.
I'm just saying
she runs them down.
I'm just saying there was 5 better picks.
Just imagine a Jinx in a side lane with a Kai'Sa. She's gonna die in 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, that's why Gumi usually only pick Jinx against who Who did he pick
The
Jinx
reason
against?
you play Kai'Sa is
Was it
because
Kai'Sa he played against?
she's
I
one of
think.
the best what's it called? One of the best self-peeling ADCs in the game. She has an ult which essentially allows her to get out with a large shield. She goes invisible.
Yeah.
She has a large amount of damage. So if you don't get if you get a tank on her, she is melting them with a % health damage. If you get a squishy on her or a assassin on her, she can go invisible and one-shot them. Like she has a lot of utility in her kit. I think Kai'Sa's a really good champion, but she's she had it. They had to nerf her like 50 times in a row just because of her kit.
I'm just saying there's like 6 other better ADCs you could pick up the tournament.
Kai'Sa was, I mean, we saw what BLG loved. Kai'Sa.
Like T1 didn't even pick it anymore after a while. They're like, this is garbage.
Well, BLG picked it the entirety of the tournament.
Well, I mean,
Dollar
if you're talking
loves
about self-peel, I mean, Elk is one of the best self-peeling ADCs by himself. I'm just saying, like, right here and throughout the tournament, too, like, Bel'Veth and Kai'Sa were the most overrated picks. I just never understood the priority with them, and there's much better things to play. Maybe not Bard. I just love Bard in general, so I'm always going to advocate for Bard.
But I'm gonna point out Bard. Almost every game he was played, besides that finals, he was good. Right. Bard was a very good choice most of the time. He has a really good kit for roaming around the map, and I think that's one of the. I want to point out this is one of the worst pools we've had for supports in a while. I think this was
players or just champions themselves.
Players. The champions themselves also kind of too, because they didn't allow for a lot of free roaming supports. We didn't get to see a lot of Leona and stuff like that. It's a lot of like Tom Kench, Renata.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I'm not saying it didn't get played. I'm just saying it wasn't the most played. Like,
no, I'm saying like it took T1 literally beating people with different stuff to go like, hey, these picks are extremely overrated. Like Poppy is better than Bel'Veth this tournament. Like if anytime someone played Poppy, it's basically just GG. Like
Bel'Veth,
what's gonna do when she leaps into Poppy's slam?
It's because it's pretty much a counter to almost every engaging character in the game because they can't dash. If she stands on the back line, she gets to use it. If you jump onto the back line and they can't disengage from you unless they flash because she has her W on you and you're pretty much stunned there. Like that's why I love Poppy is because she's very good specifically at that. She doesn't allow you to get away with things.
Oh, and let's go to the LPL because I'm gonna be honest here, people. I think the LPL did not show up the way people thought. The team that I did that show up that I thought was going to play better was BLG. I thought BLG
they got
did
3 out
well
of 4 of the
games.
semifinals, dude. That's pretty good.
I know, but I know, but remember what you said earlier, talking about context of games. Yeah, they did, but in reality, was that really a dominant 3 out of 4?
Yeah, they destroyed the LCK this year, dude. Besides T1,
T1 is the LCK.
But they pretty much are. I agree with that. T1 is the only LCK player.
Yeah, they had 3 out of the 4 teams, but LNG did not show up. Outside of Scout playing well, just specifically Scout playing well. Weibo is just jank as fuck, if we're being honest here.
You're a hater.
BLG is the only team that really played significantly well from beginning to end. JDG never looked like the JDG we thought they were, except Ruler and 369 for the most part. Like JDG did not. Oh, actually, I'm almost with JDG because the JDG that people thought came in did not just show up.
They played. I'm going to point out. I think they played really well the entirety of the tournament, and then got exposed against Cloud9.
I think Ruler and 369 played well.
The Ruler didn't even play well.
Missing did not play well. Knight was just like what Chovy was against BLG.
She was better than Chovy probably.
Kanavi never really played well at all. Like they were kind of just leaning on Ruler for the most part, and 369.
So I think their play. No, I mean, what about 369? Yeah, 369 played extremely well.
Yeah, he only played really bad against Zeus.
Yeah, he got destroyed by Zeus. We saw a lot of problems with JDG, was specifically their slow play style. They played really slowly, and that was what allowed Cloud to. They played really fast against T1.
One of the games they did, and the game that
they tried to the entire series.
The game 3 you're talking about, they played really fast, and
they played
took
fast.
Faker doing the flash Azir thing to make them not play. Remember, in game 4, they reverted back to that late game play style you're talking about. They played fast in game 3.
They played fast in game 1 through 3. They played fast in all those games because they tried. I think they went in with the mindset that T1 was going to play fast. They counteracted a lot of their play styles in the early games, and that's why we saw once they won that game, they were comfortable and tried to revert back to their playstyle, but it didn't work because T1 was obviously the better team. They came in with a game plan that they weren't comfortable with. I mean, I think Cloud9. I mean, I think JDG played really well at this Worlds. I don't want to take away from them. They played the second best team, the best team.
I mean, but you're talking about
by the
this
end of the
team
season.
being one of the best teams in the world. Do you think they gave world-class team performance?
Yeah, they would have made
I don't
the
think so.
You think the team that unarguably would have made the finals against any other team was not world class?
I'm saying when we watched them in the game, it never felt like that at this tournament specifically.
I think they did. I think they did until they played T1.
No, against KT, they were losing pretty hard against KT. The only reason why KT lost is because KT's stupid.
Let's point out the only LPL team that had, like, in the first 15 minutes, every LPL team was ahead by 4K gold, except for JDG, who's down by like 1.
My thing is against KT, Knight got beaten by BDD.
They lost.
Keen was also he was playing very well against Reset Down as well. The only reason why KT lost to them is because they're just bad at decision making and they just like throwing. Well, isn't the Baron for that really?
So if
they're
you look
bad at taking Barons, that's just
if you saw that game,
fucking objective control. Why are they so bad at it?
Well, no, so you can watch what happened. What's his name? Walked out of the Baron pit to go ward, and he got instantly killed, and then Ruler just cleaned up.
That's the thing. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason for him to do that. He's
JDG.
Retard.
JDG. The reason they played so well is because of the fact that they were able to essentially win around the map for the most part. They lost.
Yeah.
If they didn't play proactively, so they'd be down by whoever got ganked, but they'd always stabilize the rest of the lane.
Yeah, and I'm in that game 4 we're talking about where they had where Ruler had to literally just basically save their whole series. KT doesn't even need to do the Baron in that moment. All they do is set up.
No, they could have easily got that if he didn't walk up.
They could pressure the map, deep ward, then start it, so they would know if he's coming.
He tried to deep ward there. That was the whole point.
No, but before that, they should have deep warded first, then start the Baron. Remember,
they wouldn't have had time.
What you said before, because what you said before, he deep warded when they were doing the Baron.
If they do that, if they deep ward and then go to the Baron, they would have all respawned him when they had time for it. That's the reason they didn't do it.
No, they did 4 people doing it. It was
but their respawn timers weren't actually that long. It was about probably 15, 20 seconds.
No, remember, but it still was a 2v3. They only had Kai'Sa and Orianna.
I'm just saying, if they walk up to ward, it will be about 10 seconds. Everybody will be up by then. They would have TP'd in. Then they would have had the jungler make it in time. So it would have been probably a 4v5 with
what are these people like Super Saiyans?
They're not Super Saiyans. They don't kill it that fast.
No, I'm saying before even the Baron, you could deep ward. You could set up. You could also push the map. They didn't even need to do Baron in that moment either. If you look at the game, they didn't do Baron.
The Baron, I want to point out, Baron, in my opinion, was the correct call. The reason it failed is because they walked out of the Baron pits 1 by 1, which was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
No, but what I'm saying is they could have, before taking Baron, you could potentially, the Thanaton got back and watch the game. You deep ward, you set the map up, because if they know Kai'Sa is going to go invisible and try to 1v5 them, you have to set that up before. They know, they're not stupid. They know that. That's why they had him do it. Because wait a minute, I have to check before my Kai'Sa comes because we'll probably just get one-shotted. That's why they had him do it. Because if they didn't think that was going to be a possibility, he's not doing that, right?
If they walk into deep ward, they don't have time for Baron. That's the reality of it. They would not have killed him.
I don't disagree with that. I'm saying like they knew there was a possibility because they had him go in deep ward. Like
if he did not deep ward there, and they just covered. So what they could have done: stay off of the backside of the pit, ward inside of the river towards the bottom half, right where the lip is. You see him coming up. He can't make it in without being seen, and you can collapse him as a team. They would have killed him. Right. He could not have 1v4'd there. But they all separated. You see him walk up, get instantly melted. You see, I can't remember the people who did what.
I'll bring it up right now as you're talking.
You see him, and then you see the other guy run through the bottom, the right side of the river. He tries to run away, gets insta killed. So you have all 4 people separated fully, and the reason they lost was because of that. I mean, I'm not going to blame anybody. I think that
I am. They were winning that game. All they had to,
I'm not going to blame the Baron call. I mean, I'm not going to blame the Baron call. They didn't have to take the Baron
in that moment anyway. They were picking them off, doing the correct things every moment of that game.
If they didn't do Baron there, I don't know, because you have to you can't just play scared the entire game. It was the correct call. It was a smart call.
They weren't though. They actually weren't though. They were making proactive plays, like you said. They were.
They were not
that's how they got
making
into that Baron position.
They weren't making any progress.
No, but they were. That's how they would be able to get into the Baron position, though.
They were able. They won a team fight. Yes, they won a team fight under tower.
I'm gonna bring up that Baron play right.
I think that was game 2.
No. What I'm saying is, before they got to the Baron pit, they were making proactive plays around the map. Oh, game
It's
4.
way later in the game.
Because Ruler was on Kaisa. Yeah. Because on Kaisa when he did it.
It's towards
Yeah,
the end.
Probably
It's gonna be towards the end.
Around. No, it would have to be before because that's what's out their momentum swing. Because remember, people got factoring. They were winning this game. They were picking them off. They
lost
were doing everything right.
The reason
Mixing tried deep ward and he gets killed, and they're like, "Oh, okay, Baron, yeah, cool."
This is not it.
Yeah, right here. This is the correct thing to do. Yeah, okay.
This is not the Baron that we're talking about. It's way farther down. I promise you. It's towards the end of the game.
JDG did. No, you're probably right. That's right here. I know where it's at. It's right here. Yeah. So they chunk out Missing. Before this, they kill him. I'm pretty sure they killed 369. One of them, they're all dying. Like, see, they're doing the right things. It's not like they're not making proactive plays. I remember this game. I watched it. I watched the whole thing live too. Like, I was sort of like, okay, this is where I go into a game 5 because there's no way you throw from this position, but only KT can. Yeah, Ruler went in like this is so bad. Like, who does this? Only they can do this. Only KT can do this. No one does this. No one's this bad at taking the Baron.
It was 2 people. 2 people able to contest this. If he doesn't walk out, watch what's his name? Watch BDD. Watch, it was BDD that did.
Keep in mind, they don't have deep wards.
They don't need them. They don't. If he doesn't walk up, they take the Baron.
Yeah.
They're not even coming in. Like, if they didn't
that
walk
was
up,
just, you know, I know, I never disagree with that. I'm saying that they're just.
The Baron was a good call. The Baron play was bad.
Is that not a throw?
That is throw. That was a terrible play. If he didn't walk up, they would have got the Baron. They
is
probably
that not a throw?
No one said it wasn't a throw. Like, I'm just saying,
they just win the game at that point.
No,
I'm saying like that.
Up.
I was like, only KT can do that. That's it. Only KT can do that. Nobody else. Only they can do that because they're stupid.
Do you think?
All right.
I'm just confused. Do you not think that JDG was the second best team at Worlds? Who could you even argue?
Are you talking about the second best? BLG.
Second best.
BLG second best. I think that. I thought JDG was probably the third, maybe.
I can't talk to you for a little bit with my mic on. I can't. BLG, and I've said this a million times, BLG was the single most overrated team at Worlds.
You mean LNG?
No, I mean BLG.
Okay,
I mean BLG.
We talk about JDG, right?
Let's talk about BLG last, because I'm going to yell at them.
I was going to yell at Weibo, so let's go to LNG first then.
Yeah, go to LNG. I'll be right back. I have to go grab something real quick. I'll be right back.
Do you want to make love to me?
few seconds. Shut up. It ain't gonna be too much time.
All right. So yeah, I personally think KT in that moment of the game, when you're in that position, you make sure you ward before, then start the Baron. I remember now after watching, I don't remember why BDD thought to himself, it's okay to walk by yourself as a Syndra, and they know there's 2 of them up to obviously be in that position. I just don't get it. Only KT can do that because they're just so bad at objective control. It's just so disgusting, actually. It's just gross to see people play like that. And remember, JDG were playing bad against JDG were playing bad against KT in that game. KT win that game. It was a good chance they actually make a case that they can fight them in a game 5. I don't know if they would win a game 5, given how badly their decision making had become, but I think it's something that you gotta also keep in mind. So
is that what you gotta keep in mind?
LNG. Oh, also before KT, in that game 4, when Keem was trying to make proactive plays, none of them followed up. They all mentally collapsed after that Baron play.
Well, that is true, but the biggest problem was they were behind. Like, that gold transition from there was like 5K gold, dude.
Right.
They got the Baron, they got 4 or 5 kills. It was.
But that's why they picked that comp though. They knew if they got to that point in the game, they could have that Baron push and they could win the game. When they knew that was gone, they're like, well, I guess we just lost the tournament then.
They could have. The reason they gave up is because they gave arguably the better scaling team gold up on them. Like, they expected to win the game when they were that far ahead, and they threw it.
So let's talk about LNG. They were a mini little dark horse to do better than they should have. Keep in mind, so their top laner Zika. If we talk about Yike failing at his first Worlds because he's young, well, Zika's also very young. He's only like 17 years old. Zika only really popped off in summer. In spring, he was pretty jank. Tarzan and Scout had pretty good synergy throughout the year, but Tarzan started slowly falling off after they almost defeated JDG, but they didn't defeat JDG in the finals. Scout's been good for them the entire year for the most part. It just sucks that his very last best of three is the last thing people will remember about him, even though he's extremely talented. He's extremely good at the game. Gala, remember, Gala came in for them for summer because Gala was on RNG in spring. Gala was a nice addition, but Gala's not like a lane aggressive ADC. He's just not, right?
Gala,
I don't know.
I want to point out, I want to give credit to Gala. I think he's a very good Kai'Sa. He's probably arguably the best Kai'Sa in the world.
He's the one that I would say pick Kai'Sa for. If you was Kai'Sa for him,
he was the one that played Kai'Sa a million times.
Yeah.
I said BLG, but I meant stupid LNG the whole time. BLG played a lot of Kai'Sa. He's one of the best Kai'Sas in the world, and we saw a lot of the problems that came from that series was Tarzan. Tarzan was absolutely terrible.
Tarzan's the reason why they lost to remember,
yeah,
LNG were 2-1 against JDG. They were almost about to win game 3. Tarzan's like the reason why they lost to them.
Yeah, Tarzan played extremely poorly the entire series. He'd made a lot of stupid mistakes that ended up.
Jarvan play almost killed me. That guy's on cough syrup.
I mean, we just saw him get invaded.
Guys, there's a series is on Jarvan. He knows he's gonna die if he does this, and he goes in and kills him.
It was actually one of the single biggest degrading points that I've seen from a player. Tarzan, I think they could have made.
Doesn't exist. He just didn't try. He just didn't exist the whole time. Man picked Blitzcrank and threw one hook. Trash. Throw yourself out of the tournament.
They didn't give him. To be fair, they didn't give him a chance to engage there.
They gave him Blitzcrank. That was
they didn't give him a chance to go in. The way you play against Blitzcrank is if you play behind the minions the entire time, he will never have a chance to go in. Because if you play close enough to the minions, if you see him throw a hook, you can just walk behind the minion.
And then
that's why they
Scout,
did that.
It just sucks because he played like a pumpkin in front of Faker. He didn't do anything. He just walked in a lane, CS'd, lost, and kept doing that until the series was over. Even though we know he's talented, he's the same thing as Chovy.
The entirety of the game was decided by Zeus destroying Zika in the top lane and by a very aggressive
Tarzan drinking cough syrup.
I don't know what Tarzan is like. That was one of the craziest performances I've ever seen. I've never seen somebody that good play that badly. Somebody who I thought was a top 5 jungler in the world played like me when I have Kha'Zix. Like that was horrible. Really bad gameplay all around by him.
I'm just saying, Tarzan looked like he was competitively win trading. Just saying.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of did look like that. I won't say that very often.
I gotta understand when you're so like it's the opposite. You know, we talked earlier that if your jungler has bad lanes, they can't really play the game. If your mid laner is walking in a lane, just DSing and doing nothing on Jace, which you have to move on the map as Jace, you can't do anything. But the thing is, Tarzan and Hong and Zika ran it down so hard. There's nothing you can do. Like literally,
I think
what do people want Scout to do? He can't win from that position. There's nothing you can do. Tarzan's on crack.
Tarzan getting invaded by I think Sejuani or something like that.
No, it was a Poppy.
Fighting her.
Game 3 is Poppy. Remember?
Was it Poppy? You're right. Poppy, He just walked in and killed it. I was like, what is happening here? Man, he's killing.
And Oda was trolling too. He started W. You don't do that. You don't do that.
Well, you definitely start W on Poppy against I think J4.
No, not in that position. He put a point into W when he should have put a point into E. He knew that if he was so mentally far ahead of him that he knew if he started even the wrong spells, he was going to beat him. That's just such a gap there.
Well, no, he had all 3 abilities, didn't he? Are you saying put 2 points into Q?
Yeah, so he leveled up into 3, but before that, he put it into Q and W first. Actually,
I don't think he did because he stunned him off the wall.
Or unless it was Q, but nevertheless, he started a wrong series of spell rotations, and it's like if you can't even win off that, you're just garbage.
No, I think
the man literally purposely started a wrong ability and knew he was still going to win.
He had all 3 abilities. I don't know. When he invaded, he stunned him into the wall.
Maybe I'm misremembering it, but that's what I remember. To be fair, I watched this game when I was really, really sleepy.
Yeah. But the biggest thing is Poppy completely demolished. He just walked in the jungle. And the biggest problem is Tarzan tried to CS against him. He's like, you're low, your top laner has no priority, you can't go in. But so essentially what Poppy did was he walked back into range. He knows she's not going to get punished for this, so she just flashes on him and stuns him into the wall and kills him before he has time to react. You should never be in a decision. You should make that poor decision that high in elo. It's just a dumb thing to do. I think Tarzan was playing.
Can you talk about LNG for a second? I can hear. I'm just gonna go back real quick before we talk about shit Weibo.
You're a hater for hating on Weibo, man. I think Weibo is actually a good team, this man. But I think the biggest problem with LNG, you saw him with the Poppy. He was making a lot of aggressive plays inside of the jungle. I mean, that was the biggest reason they lost, is because it was a lot of counter jungling put in against LNG, and they didn't know how to react to it, so they played disrespectfully. And Tarzan, by the end of the game, the series was just broken. Like, he was heartbroken, I guess. Didn't even really put in an effort to do anything. Got completely demolished. The only team that was really able to, I don't know. The only team that was a Chinese team that was even able to beat T1 in this, what's it called, was JDG there. But LNG went in there, did nothing.
Yeah, they went. T1 went 11-1 against them.
The only team that won. And the craziest part is Genji demolished SKT all year.
That's the thing, is that, and it was primed on the bracket. They were on the opposite sides. It was looking, it was going to be a T1 Genji rematch. But you know. But that's the thing, though. Remember about BLG? BLG had the only playstyle that could counteract T1s, and guess what happened, guys? They're on the opposite side of the bracket, and Weibo knocked them out. So the only team that could realistically just crush them by just playstyle alone was already out.
To be fair, I predicted Weibo to 3-0 BLG, but it didn't happen the way I thought it would. They still ended up winning. But...
All right, so since I'm gonna eviscerate Weibo and their garbage, let's talk about Weibo then first.
Okay.
So what do you want to do about Weibo to make them good? Because I want to put this in context here. Weibo had the, I would say, easiest strength of schedule to get in. Remember, they only faced, I'm going to bring it up. Their schedule is jank as fuck. There's no way this is a good team. And I hated when people say, oh, this is as good as a DRX team from last year. No, not even close. That DRX team last year actually played well. They actually played well throughout the tournament. So Weibo never did. Weibo actually, against any other Asian team not higher seeded, got demolished, destroyed.
Weibo
they lost to G2.
I think Weibo was still probably a top 5 team in the world. I don't think you can argue against that, really. I mean, you can't really say KT.
Are you talking about going in or at the event itself?
At the event
predictions
itself.
Okay.
At the event itself, SKT was better than them, obviously. JDG was better than them. And then it's really a toss-up from there. What team would actually be considered better than them from there? Genji probably is better than them. But Genji.
Oh, sorry that I lagged out there, people. Sorry about that. Give me a second here. So, here's Weibo's schedule: NRG free, automatically free. They lost to G2. That's the best Western team. So, you think they might be able to take off a game off? They took a game off DK too. So DK, they took off a game off the 4 seeds. Okay, so G2's like, they lost to a Western team, but that is the best one. So that okay. They lost to KT. Handily. This was like a clapping. This was like they got fisted, and then they faced. God, they faced Mad Lions free. So they had 2 free matches there. Then Fnatic. In the Fnatic series, they could have lost that in game 2 because Fnatic is retarded and can't take a Baron. In the Mad Lions series, keep in mind, Shahu got solo killed 5 times and they still couldn't win a game for Mad Lions. And then they make quarters. Guess what they face against, guys? NRG, a team we already know they're better than. So we know that's a free semis. You know that's free. They beat NRG very convincingly. They faced BLG. Only reason why BLG lost to them is because BLG gave them all their comfort picks. If you look at the Game 5 draft, all those picks are comfort for them.
Do you want to know why they lost? And the reason I said they were going to lose the series preemptively is because BLG was arguably the worst Eastern team at closing out a game out of every single team. They always allow, like we look at that second game where they won. It got all the way to the end game. The only reason they ended up winning is because when they were securing the dragons and stuff like that, they ended up losing a team fight with Infernal Soul anyways, is because it was Infernal Soul. If it was any other Soul, they would have lost that game. The only reason they've ended up, they should have lost 3-1 in that series. They didn't end up doing it because they ended up having...
Before we go to BLG, I want to get your opinions on Weibo specifically, because with Weibo,
we're talking about Weibo. Oh, we're talking about Weibo?
Yeah, so I'm talking specifically game 5. They gave them all their comfort picks. So Shahu got Azir. I'm
telling you what happened in the series. I think that the reality is
I think Weibo played the game where the Shy had Graves top. That game specifically, I will give them. That was actually a pretty impressive game. That game I will definitely give them. But outside of that, in game 5, Game 5, I have never seen a team like BLG give their whole enemy team all their best champions. Matter of fact, that's how they won the Game 5. Because that Game 5 was really close. Also, with BLG in Game 5, they put Yagao on Jace. He's not a Jace player. He sucks as Jace. He's the Zoe, TF, Nico, Vex guy. You get that guy Jace. But then, obviously, Weibo, they fucking luckily beat BLG. And then they faced T1. They faced T1 and got absolutely clapped so hard. This is the weakest team I've ever seen make a finals, potentially. One of the weakest teams. They're not
BLG
good.
was bad. The reason they beat them is because BLG was going to lose to them the entire series.
I think they just drafted bad.
On a good team.
Bad.
In the first series game, they won. They won the game because they specifically.
Okay, then I'll ask you this: BLG beat Gen G, right? Okay, right?
Okay.
So do you think that if you switch them, do you think Weibo beats Gen G?
I don't think so. I think the reason that BLG succeeded is because only the reason they succeeded is because they played an aggressive early game comp that was directly countered by BLG. I said that was going to happen. I said BLG is going to play aggressively in the early game, and what's it called? Or not BLG. Weibo is going to play aggressively in the early game, and that's going to directly counter them because Weibo is able to play. They're essentially nonsense. All they do is hyper aggressive early game, and they try and win through the side lanes.
That's what I'm talking about. Weibo is a bad team from just that alone.
You actually think
what makes them different than Mad Lions?
If they played that series 4 times over,
Weibo
wins every single time.
Not even close.
Weibo is better than them in terms
of
just
the only reason why they won Game 5 was because, first of all, they gave their mid laner, who's not a Jace player, Jace. He's not a Jace player. He's bad at Jace. He's specifically better at many other things, but they chose to give him Jace. They gave Weibo all their most comfort picks. Then in the game, toward the very end, they got the picks they got. Obviously, you can win from that position. But if you're looking at Weibo's playstyle, they have no playstyle. Their playstyle is the Shy does random shit. Weibo goes to the Shy.
So their playstyle is the Shy wins top lane, which he really did that series. Won pretty much every game except for Game 2. Which is crazy because Bim was actually the second best top lane of the tournament too. That's really crazy. Yeah, but the Shy beat him every single game. It wasn't even counter matchups. He just beat he won the series against him. I still believe they're the better team. Obviously, BLG you saw when they were playing at their peak. If we say that BLG is able to beat a G2 specific, Gen G specifically because they're counter play style. That's the same concept with
BLG
Weibo.
has a specific playstyle that works very well
counters-
against the LTK teams.
Weibo directly counters BLG's playstyle, and so did the rest of the Chinese teams.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the playstyle doesn't
Weibo
I'm saying that
played aggressively in the early game, and they were able to beat them because of the fact that they were able to play hyper aggressive, essentially stall out, because their whole playstyle, BLG's, is we gank with Jarvan the entire game. They didn't allow that to happen. They counter jungled. So what he did was he ganked top lane in the early game. They got the kill, but he lost the entirety of the bottom side of the map. Then he tried to get the top side of the map, got counter invaded. So now this Jarvan, who only got an assist at the beginning of the game, lost 5-6 camps in the second rotation because of that.
Game 5, right?
Wait, no, we're talking about game 1. Weibo outsmarted them, completely dumpstered them.
No, I said game 1 was fine. Game 1 was fine.
You said game 3.
And game 3, that's when the Shy played Graves.
Yeah, you said that was good. That's 2 games they did good.
The games that BLG won, you saw the dominance in those games. Game 4,
let's look at the way they won inside of BLG. And I want to point this out. We're trying to talk about Weibo, but this is the series we're talking about. The reason Weibo was able to bring this out in game 2, BLG essentially had control of the entire map, the entire game, but they stalled out. All they did, the only time they ever tried to make a proactive play was during an objective. All they did was secure it. Weibo didn't contest them.
So that's what their comp was supposed to do. That comp does that.
They had a very aggressive scaling comp, and they tried
No,
scaling.
they didn't. Not in that game,
scaling comp. If you don't have a scaling comp and you close out the game, that's what I meant, actually. They had aggressively scaled comp. Weibo did.
Okay, yeah.
And all they did was allow them to scale into the game. Weibo, what Weibo did was they essentially kept pushing. They kept going for objectives. Weibo wasn't contesting, so they're getting free objectives. And then, by the end of the game, Weibo had Infernal Soul got dumpstered in a team fight. And they were losing a second team fight after that. The only reason they won that game is because Bin split into Bin went bottom lane, distracted them, and they got drag our Elder Soul while he killed them.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is what you're talking about doesn't matter. You know why? They were never losing the game up.
They were losing. They were not. The gold shift. In the end of the game, when they won that team fight,
Come on, game 2 when he played against
No.
you talk about when he had
the end
Jax,
of the game,
right?
when they took over the game,
Yeah,
Jax, by then, at the end, when they won that team fight in top lane at the top inhibitor, you can look that up right now. The game shifted and they took control of the entire map.
It didn't shift though. That's
it did shift. They couldn't team fight anymore. You can see them running away.
It never shifted in a way.
If they had team fought them 5v5 right there, they would have lost. Guaranteed.
No,
they would have lost. They couldn't fight them.
No, because the game never shifted. The way you're saying is the way it idealistically works. That's how that works.
No, it's not idealistically. They ran. They hit from them. They hit away from BLG.
Why are you so attractive?
I'm just telling you, BLG would not come out of the base because they couldn't team fight anymore. They couldn't.
It's not even that. The advantages you're specifically talking about don't work because they're too far behind.
They did. They were winning team fight. They won a team fight.
They won one team fight because BLG overaggressed into them.
And then the reason they even won the next team fight, and they almost lost it, I want to point out, is because they had Elder Soul, which got distracted by the
shit. Yeah, because they were Dragon Soul stacking. Yeah,
it was the Elder. They grabbed Elder.
Yeah.
Because Bin got caught. But they tried, when they caught him, they tried to pull away and go back to the Dragon Soul. They made a mistake and missed the kill on him so that they keep going so he wouldn't stay alive and come back to the fight.
Oh, no,
and they ended up giving Elder Soul. The reason, that's the only reason BLG
what I'm trying to say is the things you're talking about can't apply because they're too far behind.
No, the reason listen, any other team, any Eastern team that had that lead would have won 10 to 15 minutes.
What are we talking about? Their comp is way better.
Their comp is...
BLG's comp is way better. That comp is terrible. Remember, that's the game... Oh, wait a minute. That's not the game you're talking about. The game where Weibo picks Lux and Caitlyn and loses lane? Where Chris was running it down? They were playing well in that game?
Yeah, no, I'm just telling you. They ended up ganking.
No, because as we know, if Caitlyn's not ahead, she's worthless.
Caitlyn's one of the best ADCs in the game in late game.
At late game. They got absurd early on. So
listen to me right now. What happened into the late game, if you look at it, if you look at the goal discrepancy, if you look at the game state, if you look at from the beginning of the game, Weibo only had their own jungle vision because they couldn't control the game. They shifted into placing deep wards after that because they won the team fight and took control of the map. If you look at their dragon, they didn't come into the dragon pit until they knew that Weibo wouldn't be there because they couldn't contest. They couldn't contest Weibo.
What I'm saying is the comp that BLG specifically has is so much better than theirs. Even if they got an advantage, it doesn't mean anything.
In theory, maybe. But
no, because if you had
BLG, why was BLG not contesting the dragon until they knew they wouldn't be there?
First of all, you can't do that because which part are you?
The only reason they could even get dragon, I want to point this out, is because Ben pushed. He split bot, and that was the reason.
Okay, no,
he split bottom lane, got himself killed. He killed himself to get that dragon because he knew if he didn't, they couldn't get it.
The Shy himself, when they were trying to get a dragon, got himself caught out.
No, I'm not going to say they didn't play. So listen. When BLG has a lead, they play extremely aggressively in the early game. Their mid game is honestly
the entire year though.
No, listen. Their mid game is the single worst out of every single Eastern team.
No, I disagree.
It is.
No.
What Eastern team has a worse mid game?
I think Weibo is trash. I will say that. Weibo, this is the single worst team I've seen make a finals in years. I'll agree.
I'll agree with that. That's
if
fair.
You have Caitlyn Lux and they're that far behind. That means throughout the tournament they can't pick Caitlyn Lux because they're not good at it. That means you lose essentially a huge power pick.
They could play that again.
They got destroyed in the game.
Do you not remember how that happened?
Yes, because they got out 2v2'd. That's why that happened.
Who got the first kill in bot lane?
Was it it was Vi or was it Varus? Was it Vi or
Varus? First kill in bot lane, I believe it was
Varus.
Vi. I believe it was Vi that got the
first kill. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Vi. Also, we're gonna forget. Are we gonna forget that Silas was 4-1 by the end of the game? Like Gigal was taking over the game as Silas. We're gonna forget that.
I just want to point out, if you give a 15,000, 10,000 gold lead to any other team, the game is over. Honestly,
that's what I was trying to tell you. It doesn't matter what Weibo could in theory do. They were too far behind.
They almost lost. No, what I'm not theorizing. They did not close out the game, and the reason they didn't is because their mid game.
Also, they got outplayed that Dragonfire.
If they had a good
that Dragonfire early, they got severely outplayed. Yeah,
they got outplayed because Ben distracted until they got Elder.
That's what you do with Jax.
No, the only reason they got distracted is because they made a mistake and didn't lie. So what they did was they peeled off. But he had I believe he had Zonius at that point, and played at the last second, so they had to turn back, gave him 10 more seconds for Dragon.
Yeah, but you got to factor in what he blew there. He blew, I think, 3 summoner spells and one of their ults.
No one ran away from him. No one was scared.
Unless I'm looking at the wrong play.
Listen, the reason that Jax split is because if he didn't split and kill himself, they could not have got that drag because they were no longer strong enough.
Oh, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that play. Okay. He didn't blow anything then. I'm talking, he blew things before that, actually.
Weibo?
Yeah, that's what he's doing in that position. All he's doing is distracting that position.
The reason I knew Weibo was going to get destroyed by SKT is because
T1's just a better team. That's just all it is.
T1 is a better team than everybody. Team 1 was going to win that series. But
no, I'm saying, when you said Ben distracted them, that's what he's supposed to do.
No, but so let's look at other teams. Other teams with that, what's it called, would not have killed themselves because they didn't need to. If they had a lead, they wouldn't have thrown that lead in the first place.
Also, we're going to factor in their Caitlyn Lux were not just the guy destroyed in lane badly. They were useless. Caitlyn cannot function.
Yeah, but they came back. She can. She scales well, and they got to late
game. They would have to get at least 40 minutes of the game for it to happen.
Do you remember how long the game lasted?
35 minutes.
It was a long game, and you want to know why it was long? Because BLG is the unarguably worst mid-game. Honestly, I'm not even going to lie. I want to point this out. Energy, if they had that lead, would have closed out the game faster.
Remember,
and that's because
this is a team that smacked Gen G and T1, and this is the team.
Yeah, they counter specifically the Korean teams. They are bad at closing out mid-game teams because the reason they're good at that is because actually they would have got dumpstered by SKT.
I just don't get what's good about Weibo. The playstyle relies on randomness. That's not a playstyle.
It's not a randomness playstyle.
Smart than that. First of all, Xiao had a terrible tournament.
What they
Xiao played bad the entire tournament, outside of like maybe that BLG series, just maybe, only because Jigal got the wrong picks. He's like in game 5, I'm gonna take Jace, and it's like, oh, whatever. Fuck.
He played pretty well against everybody that wasn't Faker.
No,
Faker
he had a bad tournament.
Faker and G2.
Xiao was losing to Niski. What?
Did he lose to Niski? I don't think he lost lane to
That's
Niski.
the last game I was talking about. In lane specifically, I'm talking about. But I thought Xiao had a bad tournament. Light was, I think, their only decent player throughout the whole thing. Chris Pat.
The Shy played really well this tournament. I don't know what I'm not going to disagree with that. Shy played really well. I think
Way stepped up, but I think this is not a good team. I just don't get how people are losing.
See, your problem with it is because of the fact that you think BLG is better than they are, which they're garbage. BLG is actually.
I think if you play the series anytime in the weird, they
directly. I think if you play that series 5 times, BLG loses more games than they won.
I think BLG put up a better fight against T1 than they do.
They don't. I think they also
do. Even in the game 2 that T1 beat them, they were winning. They had a very good try to contest him in that game.
BLG is actually worse with a lead. You want the team who's worse with a lead to close out a game with a lead?
I'm saying that the part of BLG's game 2 that they were fighting T1.
Listen, if BLG had a 10k gold lead on a bunch of random challengers, they would close the game out 15 minutes later than every other team. They are discordant. They don't, unless you engage on them, they will not try and end the game. They will not try and end the game until they win a team fight that they don't force.
It's stupid. It's dumb. Have you not heard the term of choking someone out?
It's not what they do. What they did was allow
teams do that.
Yes, what they do by choking them out is you don't allow resources and you slowly push forward. They don't push forward.
League is a very unpredictable game. You can't predict for everything to happen, obviously.
Listen,
there's going to be things out of your control.
The reason they were garbage is because when they got a lead, they didn't close out the game. And if they closed out games, if BLG could close out games, they would have been the best team in the world.
Are you about to tell me, okay, so swap Gen G with Weibo. Or does Weibo beat Gen G?
No, I told you a million times.
I think Weibo lose to everybody, not just. I think Weibo.
No, they beat LNG. They obviously beat our
Weibo. No, Weibo beat NRG, who's a free. That's a free.
No, they would have beat LNG too. Is what I'm saying.
Probably.
They would have beat LNG. It's an argument for KT.
I think KT run them hard down pretty bad.
I don't think they're definitely not pretty bad.
They beat them. They beat the shit out of them in the Swiss stage. That wasn't even close.
I think it would have been close. Weibo was playing a lot better in the.
I think BLG massively underperformed, not with just drafting, but with
BLG
the player on the map too.
Literally, I think it's because their direct counter play style to them. You could see the reason that they're struggling.
I'm saying that's the only reason why they have a chance.
I'm going to say
every single regard.
BLG, if they could close out games, would be the best team in the world. I don't even think it's arguable. They would have been the best team in the world.
Are you going to tell me that Elk didn't have a great tournament overall?
I'm not saying anybody. Listen, if I'm just saying their specific playstyle and the reason they're bad is one of the it's a flaw. Every fundamental team that is not able to win worlds usually has a major flaw. Their major flaw was massive to me because mid game is one of the most important aspects of the game.
The major flaw was
Their
when they had a
early game-
lead, they would stop putting more pressure down than they needed to.
That is the single.
That's
one of
not-
the most.
that's
That
not
is
because they're a
one
bad
of the
team.
most important aspects of league in the game.
It's pressure.
reason-
Yeah.
Is a mid game pressure. You look at
Yes,
the
but- yes,
successful
yes, but
G2
pressure-
teams.
Pressure applies to different team comps specifically differently. That's how that works.
That was a team comp. When you have a gold lead, you steamroll team fights. They did not steamroll. They actually got picked off. They didn't try and
No,
push
they got picked
ahead.
up at various moments where they were way
Yeah,
had an
you
advantage
should.
to do that.
Listen. You should not wander as much as they did. You shouldn't slowly push the game. You should push a lot more aggressive. 35 minutes for that team. That's crazy. 35 minutes for that much of a gold lead.
I mean,
That's
if you're at that
nonsense.
point, Jack's going to win
That's
every
10
fight
minutes
anyway.
longer than the average game time of league.
This
10
is also
minutes.
a game. They still
No,
won
listen,
with
listen.
9,000 gold lead too.
Listen, this is a
Keep that in mind.
10 minute average longer
Yeah.
game than the average game.
Yeah.
With a gold lead that is 10,000 gold, which is higher than the average loss. That's
This is also the
crazy.
same game too, but they still won with almost a 10,000 gold lead too.
Yeah, they had that's the craziest part because they just lost a team fight and they got what they
That's
got.
what I was trying to tell you earlier. They were never in a spot where that was ever
They,
going to matter.
no, the problem is they were. The problem is they immediately lost a
No
team
way.
fight.
No way.
They
I
had
disagree.
10,000 gold. They had 10,000 gold and could not consistently win team fights anymore. They did not
No,
close
it
out the
wasn't
game.
team fighting. It was
Listen.
because Ben made bad decisions in side lanes and got picked off.
15,
That's not team fighting.
35 minutes with 10,000 gold.
Yeah.
And in the pockets of the enemy team is honestly, you'll never see a team that's won worlds do that.
Yeah.
Never see it. You'll never
No,
have it.
what I'm saying is you're lamenting bad team fighting with one guy just making bad
It's
decisions.
not bad team fighting. It is
The other four made
terrible
The
macro.
other four made great decisions
Terrible
to take
macro.
the dragon and pick them off. It was just he made
They are.
he
Do
made
you want
two
my
bad
honest opinion?
decisions.
They're a worse version of 2018 G2. That's what
That's
they are.
great.
That's what they
You know,
are.
the same BLG team smacked around LTK teams too. So we know that's not a bad team. That's what I'm trying to say. It's
I
not a
think
bad team.
BLG was one of the single most overrated team in the world.
No, Weibo's overrated. They're not good at anything.
Weibo was not good.
What is
Weibo wasn't
I'm
expected
saying
to
that's
be
why
good.
I'm saying this is one of the this is one of the worst teams to ever make a final ever.
It's
They're
the
not a
single
good team.
to make the finals. It is. But
Yeah,
BLG,
I think the only reason why BLG lost to them is because they underperformed and they massively drafted really bad against them. That's the
I don't
only
think they
reason why they lost.
underperformed, and they definitely did not draft. They drafted what they drafted the entire season. That was the same exact drafts they always draft. They lost. The reason they lost is because if you give them gold, it doesn't matter. They're going to play this. They're going to play the game out in a single template.
Like they
every single game.
single-handedly had one of the best top laners. They had single-handedly one of the best bot lanes. That's not even arguable. Obviously, if we know this is
Put all these players on a thing. The only reason they even succeeded is because of talent.
yeah.
And listen,
So you know that on talent alone, this is a better team.
it is. I'm not disagreeing with that.
The
Weibo,
only reason that's why I'm saying it's either it was choking.
it's not
or
joking.
They
I
specifically
guarantee.
played badly during that
I
game.
expected a 3-0 from Weibo. I knew this was going to be a Weibo win.
I thought it was going to
I
be a 3-2.
And honestly, the only reason they should have won 3-1.
Not
They
even.
ended up-
They were in that game you're talking about. They're never in a spot to get that lead. Ever.
You don't understand why they were losing, and that's the problem. You need to.
They were
rewatch
never
that game.
losing to begin with in game.
They
two.
lost a team fight, lost pressure, lost
one team
war
fight,
control.
and then wait.
No. Listen,
specifically never
you
got a
don't.
chance
If you
to have a team
lose,
fight.
the impact of a team fight goes drastically up the later the game.
I know because of shutdown though. I know that.
It's not just that; it's the impact on the game, the cooldown timers, of the death timers, all these things.
In that game you're talking about, when
listen,
they had that happen,
the
they
shifts-
never did anything with it.
Weibo, no, they didn't have a time. They immediately went to the dragon and made a mistake. They made a mistake. I'll give them that. But Weibo, I mean, BLG could not close out a game, and they could never win worlds. They could not have won worlds this year. They could not.
I think they could have made it to the finals if they hadn't choked massively against Weibo.
They didn't. They got out. They look. Anybody who knew what they were talking about expected a Weibo win the series.
No
it
way.
was expected.
Hey,
Anybody who knew what they were
if
talking
someone
about.
predicted Weibo to beat them, you're
I did. I expected. I told you. Remember when I told you that?
I'm saying.
Didn't I even call? I called it 3-0.
Yeah.
I expected Weibo to win so. Listen, I knew everything that I said was wrong with WLG got exposed in the series. It wasn't drafting, it wasn't choking. They made the same mistakes they've made all year. They made the same mistakes they made all year,
like
and it
in game
translated
5,
into a loss.
If we're looking at game 5, the thing that you're talking about in game 2 happened in game 5, where they actually almost threw it back to them, but they lost themselves as well.
Well,
The only reason
the problem is
game
Weibo
5
is stupid.
is because, like I mentioned before, well, No, that shows how bad they are. They weren't a good team to begin with for the most part.
I just don't know how you don't think
them losing
Weibo
T1 is not surprising to me.
How do you think that Weibo wasn't even arguably win that series? Like, at the very least, you can't make an argument that you thought they might win.
I just thought BLG were just so much better. They were going to crush
They
them.
weren't, though. Like, but they're probably the
like
single worst macro team.
Better. Ygal had a better tournament and series.
Energy had better macro than them. Energy had better macro than BLG.
Not really.
They did. They just had a way worse.
No, against Western teams, they had a good macro.
No, they
never worked against Eastern teams.
It doesn't, because they're not as good.
That's Energy only had a good macro sense against Western teams. That almost doesn't even count.
No, listen, the macro doesn't. That's the problem that I'm trying to explain. Is talent. If you're playing the right way, it doesn't matter who you're playing against.
It does.
It doesn't. It doesn't matter if you make the right decision, but you get outplayed because you're worse than them. You made the right decision. You're just bad. NRG.
Okay, then let's look at that. Let's look at the NRG Weibo series then. If what you're saying is true, and that can work against anyone for the most part, then that obviously didn't apply in the Weibo series.
It didn't, because they were worse.
Better people. Listen, they know the thing. The thing you're talking about, they know exactly what they're gonna do.
It was never their macro. They got outplayed because they lost. They made
no. I'm talking about what you said earlier about their macro play. Their
macro is not changed by difference in skill. That's not. It is not. It's not how macro works.
Because it's based off also your knowledge of how to apply the pressure on the map specifically.
That's what I'm saying. They applied pressure better than BLG.
Yeah. Now in context,
the reason they lost
that only happens is because it was against Western teams.
The reason they lost
that can't apply against T1. That style will get destroyed.
Because they're worse. Listen, what is stupid? What's his name going to do against FBI? Going to do against Gumayushi?
No, that's what I was trying to bring up earlier.
I'm telling you
that macro is only going to work against Western teams. Only them. It's not
the
anybody
macro.
Else.
It's this individual player's skill.
I know, but that creates your macro as having the individual players.
That's not how macro works.
It is.
It's not how macro works based on understanding of the game, which I think Energy had. They're just not good. They're not good players.
Okay, no. What I'm bringing up is
that
can only apply against bad teams. That's it.
Let's play.
It can't apply against anybody else because we saw that. We saw that against Weibo. All that stuff you said they try to do doesn't work against players
I'll try and run it through. So let's imagine two people are 1v1ing. A guy who's played for 10 years but still bronze, and a guy who's picking up the game for the first time but is extremely good at video games. And they play, and this guy beats him on the first time because he out-mechanically plays him.
Yeah.
This guy is obviously more knowledgeable about the game, the guy who played for 10 years, but he's not as good because he's less skilled, probably just an old dude, not able to play the way the game is supposed to be played. They can make all the correct decisions but still lose because they don't know how to capitalize. They can't capitalize on it because they're not good enough. They can't make these split decisions like G2. G2 can make a split decision because they're talented.
This is the problem with some of the examples you're bringing up. Okay, so that can't specifically apply in the 2v2 because it's a 5-person game, okay?
I'm not disagreeing. Right? So listen, the reason that they can't make team fights go the way they make the correct decisions. You see, Energy go top lane, they get 2v1. They make the correct choice to dive, but they make micro decisions. Micro and macro, two different things. They were micro by far worse than BLG.
All I'm bringing up is you can do all of that against really shit teams because that's going to work against them. You do that against anybody else, it just doesn't work. Now,
honestly,
we know the reason why that applies is because the Asian teams specifically board in various places because they know exactly that's where they're going to go.
Listen,
Western teams do not do that.
You can get
those random plays you're talking about off them.
You can't tell me a big discrepancy between KT and NRG's playstyle.
I can.
The playstyle is not different. The difference is the skill in the players.
Yes, that makes up your playstyle, though.
No, it doesn't make up the macro, though. That doesn't. The macro
it does, though, because you have smarter players on the map.
Micro, macro, two different objects. You're mixing up micro.
No, if you have smarter players on the map, like you meant, like Faker is a very smart player, right?
Yes.
So if, as we know earlier this year, if you take him off T1, they have none of that. So your player directly has an impact on your macro because they're specifically communicating information in the game itself.
If they played the same way they did, but I played mid lane, their macro could be good.
Okay, we use your example then. Remember in the JDG series when Figure did the flash against Ruler? Owner told him, I don't think it's gonna happen, dude. I don't think you can make it. He goes, I'm going in. I'm gonna try this out.
That's a micro decision.
Right.
No, that's not macro.
It's not macro, but it came. But that specific decision came from someone's mind, right?
I give. Listen, The difference is you're mixing, and the only thing I think you're misunderstanding is micro and macro. The terminology.
No. I understand the concept. I'm just saying that the players on your team specifically directly influence that.
If I play the correct way, 5 of me plays the perfect league, I'm going to get stomped every single time at SKT.
It
but
also
my
depends
macro
on
is good.
Your macro could be really good, specifically against a certain team. Or
no, if I play,
listen,
if I play league perfectly, I'll never be able to beat SKT because I'm not as good.
Right.
I'll never.
That's what
my
I'm
macro
about.
is perfect, but my micro is not.
That's what I'm bringing up earlier. When you're saying they're only good against Western teams, that already says itself. Western teams are bad.
They are bad.
Yeah,
the reason they're able to beat Western teams is because they're smart. Honestly, they weren't even more talented than
they play.
Team Liquid.
NRG plays against KT, Genji, or T1. They get curb stomped into the dirt.
If they play against Team Liquid, but Team Liquid understands the game as much as they do, they lose.
That's because Team Liquid is trash.
No, listen. Team Liquid understanding the game as much as NRG. The only discrepancy is not talent. Talent is not making the difference between NRG.
Well, I think so.
I don't.
I mean,
I think your bot lane was not that.
Pal is better than APA. I mean,
APA played, and Palafox should not be soloing APA first off. I don't even know how that happened.
Team Liquid's bot lane is terrible. What are we talking about?
The bot lane was not worse than FBI, and it wasn't that much.
A massive amount. Did you just see those Rel engages?
Oh, I'm misunderstood. I meant to say stupid Cloud9. I'm sorry.
Oh Lord, I mean, Cloud9's bot lane wasn't good either, too. Well, what I'm saying is,
Berserker's first of all better than FBI, and also Sven is
a lot. It also doesn't help.
Sven is very close to Ignar.
All right,
might be probably. Yeah.
So that's the LPL. Let's go on to LCK.
Okay.
I don't count D plus.
We don't really need to speak on T1. I feel like they played.
No, I'm saying D plus. D plus is trash.
No, I know. I get that. There's not a lot to speak on. There's a lot of problems with D1's play style.
Actually, I'll start with Genji.
Okay.
Let's start with Genji. So in their series against BLG, and I like Genji a lot. I really do. I've been following Genji for many years. In the wins that they got against BLG, the wins, that really was because BLG stopped. So I said with BLG's biggest problem. When BLG sometimes got leads, they stopped putting pressure down. When BLG stopped putting pressure down against Genji, Genji knew there was a way back in. That's the only reason why Genji were able to get back.
The reason Genji lost that game, and the reason I think is a big problem, is because
Doran didn't flash on Nar.
Well, that too. But when they tried to get back in the game, it was by trying to team fight their way back into the game.
Right. Yeah.
Weibo did not do. Weibo did not try and team fight back into the game. They just slowly, passively scaled. Genji tried to team fight back in by making split decisions, and BLG has the talent to be able to counteract that. I honestly expected BLG to win that series too, or at least get 2 wins. But it was a very close series because both of these teams are extremely talented. They're really good.
Well, it just goes to show you that if you look at the series, Genji had a really bad read of the meta. Their picks are off bad.
I agree. That was the big problem.
And that's the problem though. If the only games you manage to come back in the series are games that the other team failed to put pressure down, you know you're the worst team. You know you're only in it because they're messing up.
I actually think that Genji could have, if they'd played them in the semis instead of quarters, they would have won. I think that would have probably been the case. They would have not allowed J4 to get into the pick and ban so much, or at the very least, if they did, they would have played more Bel'Veth or something like that to counteract the jungling, the aggressive early game. All BLG is, and the reason why Genji lost is a hyper-aggressive early game ganker using that to scale into objectives. And Genji tried to contest every objective. They tried to contest back into the game. That's why they lost. Weibo willingly gave up soul and almost won. They just made a mistake. But Genji fought to the death until they lost. They did not allow Weibo to BLG to make a mistake. They did not allow them to let them scale. They played hyper scaling comps and then tried to team fight their way back into the game. And that's how Genji wins. That's why it didn't work against BLG.
But the reason why they got into the spot to reverse sweep is because they're bad meta reads. I don't know why. Maybe in scrims this worked, but I don't know why they chose to pick a Kali into Orianna. Also,
that's a direct. Everybody picks that. That's like the biggest counter into Orianna.
I'm saying things can be counters, but if they don't actually utilize it in the way that's supposed to be utilized, it doesn't really matter if it's a counter.
Well, the reason it didn't work is because Chovy is a big old loser, dude.
It also doesn't help that against BLG they gave them Orianna. First of all, Orianna's the best pickup champion on that patch. BLG should not be getting that 4 games in a row. That's just
they didn't just get Orianna. They got Orianna and Jarvan every single game. There was disrespectful drafting.
That's not bad drafting. I don't know what is at that point.
That is probably the single worst instance of drafting in the entire, because obviously when you look at it, Gen G went in there with a plan. Their plan didn't work out because they got ganked a lot. They didn't know how to come back from a gank. They allowed J4 to get through every single series, which was arguably the most impactful character inside of that. They allowed Orianna to get through. They just kept allowing these things to get through, and they tried to passively team fight better. That's what their goal was. Gen G made a poor, again, I'll agree with you, it was a poor read on the meta. They could have probably beat everybody else besides SKT.
No, that's the thing. You look back, the game that they played against T1, that was pretty hard destruction. Yeah. So the only teams like BLG and Gen G, the ones that could beat T1, well, obviously BLG knocked out Gen G and then BLG got upset by Weibo. I mean, if the best teams lost to everyone else and T1 is beating everyone that's... Because T1 have a direct counter playstyle to JDGs, so that MSI... T1's playstyle directly counters LNGs. That's when they crush them there. T1's playstyle specifically counters a lot of the LPL teams. And if the best team that can beat them already out, it doesn't matter at that point.
T1 was going to beat Gen G. T1 was playing out of their minds in this Worlds. I think they really stepped it up.
Okay, if I'm for T1, because we'll just talk about T1 because T1's biggest fan base, I guess. I mean, they just played well throughout the whole event.
Yeah.
Like the worst player would probably be Faker, but that's not worse. It's like he was getting carried. Zeus had such a great tournament.
The worst player would probably
be Gumayusi. Gumayusi played well throughout the entire tournament too.
I think it's probably Owner.
No, Owner had every game.
Zeus was the best. Faker was the second best player in the finals and the first best player in the semis.
Like 3 charms in a row. Even missed his Everfrost. Remember?
Are you talking about what? You don't think he was the second best? You're talking about the last game where they picked.
No, we're talking about just T1 specifically. I think it's hard. I think Zeus, Owner, and Keria were their best players by far. Keria warped how the support meta.
I can see the argument for Keria, but I don't see it for Owner. I don't think Owner was the second. I think Owner was probably 4th best, and then
it's probably because I'm saying Faker played good.
Faker played extremely, like literally.
He played better last year, though.
I'm pretty sure he got the second most votes for Finals MVP too, didn't he? He was the second player that series.
God, I mean,
he was the best player in the semis.
I'm just saying here, if Keria is playing that good and everyone's still sucking off Faker, I don't know how well anybody else can play. Faker
played well. Faker played. I don't know why you're hating on him. He was the best player in the worst player.
Played way better.
The worst player, I think, is either Owner. It's got to be Owner because Gumayusi carried some fights by himself.
Yeah, but the thing here is, I think Owner never had a bad game either. He
never had a great game though.
He did. He had amazing games. Most of the games were gaps.
Yeah, he never had.
The only game he had specifically that was even was against Piosik. Against everyone else, he gapped him. He destroyed Blabber, obviously. He destroyed Jarvan, or not Jarvan, fucking hell. He destroyed what's his name, Tarzan, right? He destroyed
Tarzan. I want to point out, I'll give him the credit for the quarterfinals. The quarterfinals, he gapped him. I'll say he was probably
Razork. He played well against. I mean, he gapped. What's BLG's jungler?
The jungle matchups, I think, were not that impressive on his end. But I think in the quarterfinals,
the actual map pressure he had, he knew exactly where to be on the map.
I don't think
he was everything right.
He didn't gank that much in terms of the semis and finals. They won. They won lanes.
No, I'm saying even if he didn't
counter
games, he counter ganked specifically really smart, and he destroyed them.
I'm not disagreeing. He played well. I don't think he was better than Faker, though. Faker won team fights. He never won a team fight by himself.
No, I'm saying, what series was Faker the ultimate deciding factor and decide the JDG one?
The semifinals, I think he was the best player.
Just that one.
Yeah, the quarterfinals.
Everything else, I thought it was
the quarterfinals was
Owner.
No, Owner was. Zeus Faker played well.
Didn't have a bad game the entire tournament though. Zeus played well every game.
Zeus was no one's arguing with Zeus. Zeus was the best player at the tournament.
And if you factor in, Keria specifically warped how the support meta was even picked. Everyone's picking this bullshit.
Well, Keria's, in my opinion, probably the best support of all time. I think that I would make that argument.
Do you want to make love to me?
I don't. I think Owner. The problem is you're trying to pick the worst player on the best team with arguably the best player in every position, almost.
I'm saying Faker had a much more better performance carry-wise last year.
His team fight, he was a lot better this year than last year.
No, the Rise play that he had last year was just
great. A lot. His team fighting was a lot better this year. He had a lot better team fighting. He had a lot more solo kills first off.
Team fighting, he missed like every ability.
You're talking about one game on Ari, dude. You're focusing
I'm
on
talking
that.
about he missed he only played Zero and Oriana.
Okay, let's look at that. Let's look inside of the finals, inside of the the semifinals, where he solo carried them into a win against JDG in the river, in the bot lane against the Dragon. Solo, all him. Literally, no one else even helped. Yeah. Soloed them. And the semifinals on his Azir, single best Azir play I've ever seen at Worlds.
If we're isolating one series, this guy played well over like other people that
he
have
played the entire Worlds well. He played extreme. He was the single best player in
What about the Silas game? The Silas game, he did fuck all in that game. Remember the Silas game against Cloud9? He didn't do anything.
Yeah, because they stopped so hard, he didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, that's the top lane. That's because of Owner and Zeus.
Why not Owner? Stop including Owner and Zeus.
It was because Owner went up to top lane and he ganked specifically right at the right moment where he needed to win.
He won the lane before Owner ganked.
I'm just saying, I thought he was.
You're giving credit to Owner, which is fair enough. Owner was extremely good at Worlds, but you're not giving credit to Faker, who solo carried a series.
Series. I'm talking about someone who played well throughout the whole event.
Owner did not. Owner only solo carried a series, and on top of that, you can't say he solo carried the series. He had winning lanes.
I'm saying Owner played well throughout the entire of the event, just the entire.
So did Faker played well the entire event. You can't say he didn't.
He was losing to APA.
Honestly, that was purely based on. And on top of the fact that was off the stupid ganking. Piosik
losing to Jigao.
Piosik outperformed Owner that series. That's the reason they even got behind is because of the ganks.
Also, it was very even. I mean,
it was not even. Piosik was the only reason they were in the game. He was massively outperforming Owner.
Yeah, which was the reason why they got to that specific moments. Because who's APA playing against? Oh, it's Syndra against the Oriana that game was playing.
Yeah, Oriana. He went into the yeah. The big thing is it was Syndra into was it Oriana? I don't remember. I don't remember the exact game, but I'm saying the big problem with Owner is that the games they even lost was because of his lack of pressure. It was lack of. I don't think Faker could be attributed to any of the losses.
You got to factor in they lost one single game in these. Yeah,
they lost 2 games. They lost 2 games.
That's disgusting to think about.
They're good. The problem is you're trying to make.
I'm saying the reason. I'm saying.
I think Faker was the second best. I think I would just give it to Carry. I would probably
Carry is probably debatably give him third.
I would debatably. So my big thing is you could toss Carry in the second. I could argue.
Go back to their bot lane stomped every games practically.
But the problem is in a lot of the series they were playing a more aggressive laning comp.
That's how they always played though. They play high aggressive skirming comp.
They do. What I'm saying is
like last year.
It's a roaming AD support. We'll see it a lot from Carry. He does play that, but.
No. They also dominate lane like that.
I'm not saying they don't dominate lanes. I'm trying to say if you don't play a hyper aggressive engaging support, I don't feel like you have as much impact on the map. Which it's not because he played poorly. He played like if you it talks about playing your role, he played his role perfectly. He did not make many mistakes. Mm-hmm. But if we're talking about the impact on the game, you could play your role perfectly and still lose. The reason I think Faker did well is because when it came down to the team fights inside of that second series cemented. I actually thought he was until that finals. Faker was probably the best in the team. And when it came down to the finals, you can't even make the argument for Zeus. But Faker still played extremely well in the finals.
No, I'm saying like the way that all of his teammates played effectively, so like their roles so well. I mean, if you're a mid laner, I don't think you have to do anything honestly at that point.
If you can take any of SKT and take them out of the top 2 in their position, I'd be surprised.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, if you could take it, they're all top.
It's not even the fact that they all play well. They just warped the meta of the tournament too.
They were just a class above everybody at Worlds. It's just the reality. I don't like to make individual. Like what I'd like to do is do biggest like not just individual teams, but the individual.
Yeah, teams. So we got to go to the next thing. So we talked about all the major regions. Biggest fraud. Well, you guys know mine. I think Weibo, big fraud.
They may. I don't know. The biggest frauds would be LNG coming into the tournament as the second seed.
I was going to say LNG too. LNG and Weibo were pretty huge frauds, honestly.
Weibo, you can't.
Weibo more because Weibo was actually power ranked as a dark horse to win. Weibo wasn't really.
Weibo performed to expectations. I don't know how you can call him props.
No, I'm saying like based on
Weibo overperformed expectations by a large margin.
Yeah,
fraudulent would be LNG, who was power ranked to be one of the top.
Who else would you pick outside of
You already know my pick would be BLG.
That's. Oh, wait, would you pick Gen G as a fraud?
No, I think they underperformed, but they're not. Their power their ranking wasn't fraudulent. They deserved the ranking they got.
So Weibo, LNG. I don't think there's any other team that would get fraudulent because fraud would mean I expected something mostly out of
maybe
you.
G2. Honestly, I expected something from G2.
That's hard because they actually.
They should have. They
That's
should
not a
have
bad
made.
one. That's not a bad one. You're right.
I think if G2 played to their position, they would have probably beat Weibo in the quarterfinals.
Because that's the thing is, I can't really call most LCS teams fraud because I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's kind of expected.
I think G2 could have beat Weibo in the quarterfinals, and they might have been able to beat BLG in the semis. They would have had a lot harder time against BLG, but I think they could have beat Weibo. They could have made the finals. They didn't. They underperformed and lost to Energy, who should not have lost to them. But those are the teams that I think could have made an argument for it.
Yeah, probably for me, Weibo, LNG, and it's hard to say G2's a fraud because what
They
was your
didn't
expectations for them at the event,
Make
though?
quarters at the very least.
I guess you could say that's fraudulent.
They should not have fraudulently lost to Energy.
I think if you could look at the way Gen G was talked about coming to this event and losing in the fashion that they did, I think we'd say it's pretty fraudulent.
You could make an argument. I'm just saying when I think of the word fraud, I'm thinking they get expectations that are too high from them. Weibo came in, no expectations.
When I think of fraud, I'm thinking like you were
LNG came in, expectations to come into play, and I don't think they deserved it.
For me, when it comes to mostly fraud, it's like I always kind of knew you were bad. This just kind of proves it for the most part. For Weibo,
you can't even include Weibo because they made the finals.
No, because I think this team was good throughout the whole year.
Yeah, but they made the finals. They couldn't be included in this.
But finals with
hater.
many. I'm saying this finals with many huge asterisks to that.
It doesn't matter. They made it.
Like they weren't ever dominant in anything.
The fraudulent only applies to results, and results-wise, Weibo played the second best of the tournament.
No, unfortunately, close.
No, you're not understanding results-wise. Results-wise, they were second best team.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're doing results,
then you can't include them. Fraudulent rankings is crazy.
No, I'm saying like
they're not frauds because
the way I look at fraud is obviously the word definition of it. You can already.
I need to understand what your argument is because I don't understand. If we go by
I knew they were bad. I've watched them the whole year. They're not a good team.
Yeah, but you thought BLG was good, so you
I did
because
and BLG. I mean, this team had 15-1 in the LPL, the hardest league in the world. I mean, Weibo was doing fuck all with that. You know,
I honestly knew that they were getting like my biggest thing is
like you're not about to tell me that you thought a team that went 15-1 is worse than the team that probably went like
I told you there. Did I not predict a 3-0 from Weibo?
No. I'm talking about there's like where are you getting these conclusions from a team that finished 15-1?
It's because I don't base it off results. I base it off.
It wasn't results. I'm talking the actual
when we were at
Worlds.
Itself. When we were at Worlds, I said Weibo is playing a specific play style that is going to directly counter BLG, and they're going to struggle.
Yeah, but even if that's true, that's not.
If we went just based off talent. If we went based off talent, I think BLG 3-0s them. They had a worse understanding. Their understanding of the meta is the reason they lost. Their understanding of how to close out games.
Who did BLG play in the strength of schedule? So BLG played KT, JDG, Fnatic. That's free for anyone, honestly. And
you know what I'm trying to say, right? I don't base my games off of who they play and how they play. Who they play. I should. I never do. And that's why
the person that you face directly correlates to how strong most of your time, if most times your team is. BLG has specifically that's a stronger from the schedule. That's Weibo's not winning any of these games if they have BLG
Gen
schedule.
G, if SKT had faced the easiest schedule in the world, they would have still won Worlds because they're the best team. I don't care who you face. If I look at your
they had Gen G and BLG there. They had two NA teams there.
Mm-hmm. If we look
but the thing though, it doesn't matter if they stomp. You saw in the game, the gameplay itself, they were insanely good.
No, I didn't think they were good. That's the reason I thought they would lose. They would not close out games.
That's crazy.
The things that I said were wrong about BLG are the reason they lost the series. It's just fact.
Yes, that still technically doesn't make them a bad team.
I didn't say they were a bad team. They're not good. They're not one of the greats. They were not. They were honestly not top 5.
I think they were consistently
SKT,
good all
JDG.
Year.
Honestly, I'm going to say this. I think Gen G was better than them. They just should not have played them. Gen G would have beat everybody else.
Well, this thing, BLG has a direct counter play style against them. That's the reason why
against specifically Gen G. Yeah, those 3 teams. They could be the 4th best team in the world.
No, I'm saying is Weibo. This is what we would mostly be like. This is what a luck scenario is. They weren't good the entire year, and they had a really favorable Swiss stage run to the finals.
The thing about it is, if you were watching the gameplay, you could see that the play style that they were putting on was going to have trouble. BLG was going to have trouble with it. That's the reality of it. They just would not have played well against Weibo. I didn't expect it. I expected a loss, and it's what happened. I'm not trying to say that I predicted it. I'm just saying if you look at the problems that BLG
I'm saying
had,
if this happens at an international event again, because
if BLG went back to 2018 or 2020,
maybe,
I don't think they make it out of groups.
No way.
I think they
I think there's such a discrepancy between the West and the East that they could make it out.
I don't think they beat G2 that year. I don't think they beat G2. They don't beat any of the Korean teams. They lose to the top Chinese teams.
They don't.
They're not.
Because we saw that they don't this year.
Not this year. This year was one of the weakest. Honestly, SKT was extremely good, but everybody else, this is one of the weakest pools of world teams I've seen.
I think I want to play League after this soon.
Okay.
I think Weibo was one of the worst finalist teams we've ever had. I think they're
running. I won't disagree with that.
I think they're complete frauds. I watched them the whole year. I know they're not good. I think, you can look out and win anything.
They weren't. I don't think they lucked out. I think they were going to beat them. BLG might be the better team. I'm not going to disagree with that. But they weren't going to beat They were not going to beat Weibo.
No, that's what I'm trying to say.
The reason it's the same concept.
It's the same argument with NRG with G2. We don't think NRG is better than G2. If played better BLG, on that specific day. That's all.
If BLG had played Gen G multiple times, I still think it'd go in that series. Same concept with Weibo for me. I think Weibo specifically was going to win that series because BLG was going to allow them to scale. So they could have eventually just started picking scaling comps. I mean,
my thing is, I think Weibo just played better on that specific day. I think they're the worst team by mostly every metric possible. Anyone can play better on that day. Like the Falcons, when the Falcons won their when they grouped that Super Bowl, the other team was better, right? Most like the Rams against the Patriots in 2019 or 18. Like the Rams were better than the Patriots. The Patriots just played better on that day.
The Patriots outsmarted them. That was the reason we lost. That's the unfortunate part.
That's the main point that I'm driving home is they just played better on that day.
I think that BLG as a counterplay style could never beat Weibo in a series.
Because if you're saying they could beat anybody else but Weibo, that means
I don't think they could. I think Weibo would lose to most everybody else. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Oh, no, wait, because BLG beat
Weibo would lose to everybody else. That's what I'm saying. You're agreeing with me.
No, BLG beat KT, who played very good against JDG. They had a very close game 2 against T1. I mean,
look, my argument is Weibo was going to be BLG. I'm saying BLG might have been a better team. I'm not going to disagree with that. I think
Weibo are frauds, and I'm glad they got destroyed by T1.
But BLG was never going to be Weibo. I'm actually surprised they got that second game. I thought they were going to lose 3-1, the entire 3-0, 3-1. That's what I predicted. That's what I expected. Weibo was a counterplay style to them. It's the same concept of Gen G to them. They were just not prepared for it. And I think that I don't think we have too much discrepancy. I just think that you think it's because of luck, and I think it's because they were never going to be.
There's luck
BLG was not lucky
against their roaming mage mid laner Jace is beyond trolling.
BLG was not going to lose to Gen G. I think they would have beat him 5 times.
No. What I'm saying is, Weibo, if you're in that position, if an enemy team gives you 5 of your comfort picks, I just couldn't imagine a world where you don't play well. There's no way.
I think BLG all around played worse that series. It wasn't just individual comps. It wasn't anything. And they made poor mistakes. And I got to give credit to Weibo. They capitalized on the mistakes. I thought they could. I wasn't sure they would. But let's look. I don't want to dwell on it too much. I just want to say Gen G versus BLG. I think Gen G is the better team. They're going to lose to BLG every single time because it's a counter play style. Same concept with Weibo and BLG to me.
Yeah.
Same concept. I think Weibo is going to beat them every time, but Weibo is not the better team than BLG.
So I'll ask you this before we head out. When does LNG play?
Well, LNG is the worst team. LNG was worse than NRG. I'm going to point that if they had played NRG in a best of 5, they would have lost. That was just the worst performance I've ever seen in my life. But
Yeah,
I thought you wanted
I'm
to
just
give the
saying,
fraud
this was one of
awards
the
to
easiest world championship for any of these teams. Like you're
Who do you
looking
think-
at JD, you're looking at Gen G, and you're like, this is a free world championship for anyone to win.
I thought we were gonna give the who played the best out of overperformed
Yeah.
expectations.
Who overperformed?
Contracts.
Compared, yeah, I would say contracts that Palafox did. Yeah, or
I think
you would say
contracts
players or
specifically.
teams. Yeah, if
If
you're
we go
talking
by
about
teams,
players,
it's stupid SKT. If we go by teams, who overperformed play style wise, I also think it's NRG. NRG is not good enough to be there, but they
oh
made
no,
it,
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
but they made it because they obviously got lucky against
Oh my
G2,
God.
but they
I'm
played.
glad you said G2. Holy crap! You know, I think really massively shit the bed that people thought was gonna be the best Western support was Mickey X. He played really bad.
He had good games, but when it mattered, he sucked. That was the problem.
Bad. Like we ran it down
When
completely.
it mattered. I mean, I don't know. I
This
expected
is the thing though. I can't say like TL's a big fraud because I knew they were gonna be shit. I knew Cloud9 were gonna be shit. I knew Matt
I
Lyons
didn't
would be bad.
expect. I'm going to point out. I didn't
Did
expect.
you watch
that
the
level.
LCS?
Cloud9 getting dumpstered that hard by.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised. I thought they would.
No, they're bad.
They're all bad. They're all the NA is bad. But
So no, you can't be like, I'm surprised they played badly when we know they're bad. That's
no. I'm surprised they played as bad as they did. That's what I'll say. I don't think they played. They didn't play that much below expectations, but I think they did for me a little.
who overperformed. I think Gilzik definitely surprised me about how well he actually
Josik
played.
played extremely well.
It's so crazy how he told his coach, pick me up my best champion, I'll get us into game 3, and they give him Sejuani in game 3. Just
Mhm.
and
Adam overperformed for me.
I will say, yeah, Adam played really well. Yeah. Who else did? Anyone? I think Broken Blade had a pretty impressive tournament. We're looking at
Actually, the only problems is the games they lost were directly output Broken Blade's back.
that's the problem.
Like he literally was the reason they lost against NRG. He's the reason they lost.
And Caps has become very just okay.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
That's the problem.
Caps
Is he's
was
supposed to be their
definitely-
strongest player. He's not been if this was the Caps of like 2018, 2019, 2020, they would have a much better time of the tournament. LCK. Oh, I forget. Aiming had an impressive tournament. Aiming looked incredible in team fighting.
He was really good. Actually, he was probably a
Him and
top.
Elk. Yeah, Elk's BOG's bot laner, right? Elk.
Yeah.
Elk had those two look
Aiming-
so good in team fighting.
Aiming is not somebody. First off, I want to go about the history of aiming. Aiming was the most mediocre to average ADC for like 10 years.
To be
And
fair, he
you-
wasn't a freak before that.
It doesn't matter
Yeah.
who it was. He was average. He never did anything with his lead. And then we get into those worlds. Honestly, this year, and he's been pretty good. He's been pretty good and phenomenal at some points at Worlds. So I was really impressed with him. I did not expect it.
Mhm.
But I don't think
Elk
there was-
aiming.
the biggest fraud.
I will say this:
like,
BDD playing as well as he did. I think so. I mean, BDD is not bad. I don't think
I expected that level of play from BDD, so it wasn't really surprising.
I'm not surprised at BDD playing that well.
Yeah. If I had to go by players, by success, a lot of those players, but the fraudulent ones are the ones I'm excited.
Knight
Yeah, I could see.
compared to it's the same as Shelby. Every year, I'm gonna start predicting it. He's turning into the new Clear for me. Every year, he's supposed to be this really
He
kick
played
in the
pretty
ass
well
guy.
a few years ago.
MSI. He played really well. I'll give him that. MSI. He was absolutely just
But
one
If
of
I
the
have to
players of the
pick
event.
the single most, like Tarzan's got to be number one for me.
Yeah,
I just
yeah, I would say.
expected something from Tarzan, and he
To be
was.
fair, he was playing this way in the LPL toward the very end of the season too.
I mean, but he played well at the beginning of Worlds, though. He
Not
just-
really. It was
played
really
pretty-
just scout covering for him for the most part.
I don't know. about
Remember
that.
the Jarvan play he was doing? He didn't really do anything on Jarvan. He just kind of walked around and did nothing for the most part.
He made a lot of skirmishes happen, which is fine with me. But the big thing is Tarzan is one of the single worst performances I've seen.
Oh
at
my god.
Worlds.
I'm glad. Zika. This guy was getting his dick sucked by everyone. I was like, I don't see the impressiveness with this guy. He looked just very coin flippy.
Who did he beat even at Worlds once? I'm trying to think.
He was very bad at Worlds.
I'm trying to think of a lane he won.
He didn't even beat Fudge. Fudge was playing very
Fudge
well.
Fudge dumpstered him. Fudge completely demolished him. That's the craziest
Yeah, I
part.
remember everyone was saying like, "Oh, Zika is going to be the newest top laner to take up." No, he was bad.
I think he might be in the future, but this Worlds was not indicative of that.
The thing is, people were looking at LNG Summer Split and going like, "Well, this is going to be the team," but it's like, there's many asterisks for that too.
I thought LNG would do better at Worlds. They played SKT, fortunately.
Even though I think Weibo are huge frauds, I think the Shy played a lot better than I thought he was.
The Shy played super well. Like he won, maybe.
You know what always screws me over when I'm talking about him? Remember the finals? You kept bringing out how Weibo played. Remember that game 2 where he literally didn't even need to go back in?
Yeah. That's the problem with the Shy is, man, when he is on fire, and that's the reason why he's the Shy. It's because he will make these proactive plays and try and push to his limit. He can see the opening, but honestly, a slight mistake is
Weiwei played way better than I thought he was. I don't think I'm so Weibo I think is bad, but I think Weiwei massively stepped up for them when it mattered.
Weiwei, I mean, they're probably
he's not impressive or anything.
I want to point out Weiwei is the single reason I thought that Weibo was going to beat BLG, specifically him, is because his play style of counter jungling and counter ganking and stuff like that puts what's his name in a weird position because he can't just spam ganks as Jarvan.
Okay, so we went through the okay, so let's go to LCS. We said Palfox contracts. That's NRG.
Yeah,
C9.
That's all.
I don't think anyone played good on C9.
Berserker
attempted to, but in his
Berserker,
position,
I think was okay. I don't think Sven was bad. I think those two were okay.
Team Liquid, we said PO sick. That's just basically it.
I wish
Golden Guardians doesn't really count for anything. All right.
Honestly, who knows who's on that team?
Nobody, because they're homeless now. So LEC, Adam.
Yep.
For BDS. Fnatic, I'll say Razork played very well. Oscarina did step up on certain games.
I think like Oscarina lost, not even just lost.
Remember that Poppy game he had? That was really impressive.
Yeah, I'm going to say he got destroyed more often than he played well.
Yeah, so you can't really say. I'll just say Razork for Fnatic. Who was else for the LEC? Mad Lions doesn't count for anything.
Mad Lions.
Then G2.
G2.
Broken Blade and Hansama played very well for
Broken Blade played. I think Broken Blade played really badly.
Yeah.
I think Broken Blade played really badly. I'm trying to think. Which game was it? Not this one.
You're talking about the Yone one he had?
I'm trying to find no, the game that is try to see.
The fuck you want, black man?
What up, motherfuckers?
So I would say the best player on G2, maybe Hansama. Maybe.
It was probably Hansama, yeah. But
that's the only person I could even think of giving credit to.
All right, let's do the LPL. Weiwei.
Honestly,
Shy.
pretty much most of the junglers.
It was mostly
besides Tarzan.
Oh no. Like how I feel, the way MSK feels about Weibo is the way I feel about LNG. LNG, I never believed in them. I thought they were dog shit. They got hot during the summer, during that during the playoffs. They got hot during there.
A lot of good players.
EDG fell off with Leave. Once Leave left, EDG.
EDG plus top esports just like they just forgot how to play like League. Because my four choices, if the LPL would have been DDG, BLG, top esports, and EDG. Weibo,
I agree with that.
Weibo Weibo got lucky, and LNG got lucky. Both of them teams got lucky. Like EDG was falling apart, and top esports.
You know the same way you said you never believed in Tarzan. I never saw the hype with Zika. He was only ever good on Rumble.
You never believed Tarzan. Honestly, is historically one of the best junglers of all time.
He's also a historic choker. That's just
my main thing was
Tarzan. Worlds when he was on Griffin.
See, that's the same thing. That's the same thing because MSK told me to go. I literally watched all the games, or not all of them, but I watched.
He's a finals choker. He is bad.
Because think about it. I went back and watched all the Griffin games from I forgot what year they were in.
2019?
Yeah. That's why I got no faith in Chovy. I got no faith in Tarzan. I had less faith. I was like, Tarzan about to get fucking fisted.
I just can't believe Tarzan played like an actual. I don't even know what was going on. The dude was AFK in the jungle, just hitting the blue buff.
No, it was so criminal. People need to go watch that Jarvan play. That might have been the most crackhead cough syrup drinking moment I've ever seen. That
I don't
man's
even
win trading.
understand why he walked back in to let Poppy flash him. Like it's actually a decision I wouldn't have made. I would not have made that mistake.
I wouldn't have made that either.
It's like that
if
crackhead
I-
blitzcrank we had where he's just going in and just hooking and that's it and just instant dying. Like this man's on cough syrup. Like what the fuck?
Or
Okay, I want to
yeah,
watch
but-
that play. I want to watch his J4 fail because that was the funniest shit
Oh,
ever.
no, that was bad.
I don't
That-
even know. Tarzan is not that bad. That was like some of the worst
I
performances
don't
I've
think
ever seen
he's.
in my life.
I don't think he's trash, but the hype that people were trying to get, because
They
of the
gave
whole-
him credit for his past. I will say.
Yeah, and I was
I'll
like,
give him. I will say that he was not that good this year. He was still good
Yeah.
at the beginning of the year. He's still
people only
good
gave him
mid
credit
game.
because he had really good synergy with Scout. He individually himself
Yeah.
wasn't that great.
He
It was
played- he
Scout that
played
was
him
doing
and
it.
Scout were great.
He was good in
Everybody
spring.
else, yep,
He was good at the beginning of summer, and he sucked in the late game of summer, like at the end of summer.
yep.
And that was right before Worlds, where it really matters. And
To,
it's
no,
just,
to me, he was good once they got to the final versus JDG. After that is when LG kind of, and they were just lucky because I think they got a second place. They were able to get into Worlds.
Yeah, people forget the reason people also LNG almost beat JDG. Yes, but the reason why they also lost to JDG was because of Tarzan. That's the
I
reason
just
why they
can't
lost to
believe
JDG.
it, to be honest. Like it's the level of play I wouldn't expect from somebody as smart as he is. But he did it, and can't.
But
really say
like I said, sometimes it comes down to pressure. It's the whole thing. Like you have to eventually get over the hump, and that's what happened with Chovy. Chovy finally got over the hump. Won the LCK with Genji again and again and again. Oh, now we can beat T1. They got the confidence. But guess what? It doesn't
They had
matter.
that Worlds too. They had that one random game against T1. They had the best game against T1 over everyone. They had the best game against T1 over everyone. And then Chovy's choking kicked in again.
Chovy. But it wasn't just Chovy. Fucking Doran just decided to not not log on.
You know what? I will say, Doran actually played better than he's played any other year this year. This is his best year of all time.
I
That's
did.
not saying much.
Only
He's
on
not
Dragon.
saying anything.
That's not saying he played like a corpse half the year. Like he played like a.
Listen, when he played, I don't know if you guys remember how bad Doran was, but when he replaced what's his name on Griffin, that I can't ever. That guy's even worse somehow.
I know you're talking about.
When he replaced him, we're like, "Where's the upgrade? This guy sucks." Then the next year, he was somehow worse. Then the year after that, he was even worse. And then somehow, I don't know what happened, but this year he was serviceable. Like you wouldn't expect that from Doran, who I thought was beyond mediocre his entire career.
That he single-handedly carried them in that spring series with his Gragas play. That was beautiful to see. Like you're like, oh, this guy's amazing. Wait a minute, he's just only as good on Gragas.
Yeah,
He was good on.
If
he
you
had
go
a few
to the
good
comment
games.
section of that Jarvan game. No, if you go to that comment section of that T1 LNG game where Tarzan was drinking cough syrup, someone said T1 T1 Tarzan in effect here.
Oh, shit.
I don't even know what to say about Tarzan. I'm not gonna lie.
God,
It was on his ass. Oh my!
when I'm saying when does LNG play though?
Well,
LNG never
Sorry, I'm
really
lagging
played
out
this
just for a second. My
close.
internet was being cracked.
I know that. It was
I gotta look at that game actually. Now that you're saying
But,
that,
but honestly, yeah, Weibo did have an easy way into
Just
Worlds.
Watch how criminal.
And then they get the easiest fucking team. Like
Watch
really?
how criminal that is.
it's crazy because and LNG didn't even play that badly in the Swift stage. They beat KT,
Yeah.
played relatively okay, and then they get to the quarters and like
They just got the one team that was like, oh, okay.
they were going to
Okay.
lose most series, but like that was honestly some of the worst gameplay I've ever seen in my life.
The only two teams I think LNG could beat were going against each other in Weibo and Energy. Those are the only two teams I can
think
see.
you know what? You know what? No, I can't say that. I do think they lose against a few other teams too. But
No,
that was-
I'm saying out of the 18 that got the quarters, I'm saying the only two teams LNG would be were two teams that are going against each other in Weibo and NRG. Everybody else, LNG's getting smoked. Like Genji smoking them, KT smoking them, T1 smoking on LNG pack. Like wasn't it at one point like they got like T1 out Drake them 12-1 or 12-2 or some shit. Like,
T1 literally it was 12-1. 12-1.
12-1.
It wasn't just Drake, it was Drake's and Wrist Herald's.
Yeah, it was like,
And better. They got literally 0 objectives the entire series.
It was like
they got one single one, and the one they got, they pretty much died for.
That felt, you know, it felt like if you want to go to football, it was, you can think about it like, what was it, Giants 07, Eagles 05. It was just a complete stomp. And you're looking at LG in a sense like, yeah, and I'm watching games. I'm like, and I stay up sometimes watch a replay. And I'm like, this team's average. This team, it's
LG,
they're not shit. They're not. They got shit,
talent at least, but they don't have the. They definitely don't have the killer instinct.
One thing
they
don't got the mentality. They don't got the mentality,
and they don't really have the macro.
The only team I think that had the mentality was JDG and BLG. I think JDG, in the sense, they felt like,
I think the only team, if we go by mentality, I think Weibo had the mentality. They should not have been there. They didn't have the talent.
I don't think Weibo had the mentality.
They didn't have the talent to do it, dude. Every single game they won pretty much was against better players.
I think they had the talent. I think they had the talent if they tried. Like sometimes people don't, because go look at the end of the game when T1 was coming over. Like Weibo didn't feel like Weibo didn't care if they lost. It was like, okay, we got the finals.
The problem
that's
Weibo,
mentality. That's mentality.
Weibo rarely ever won with lanes, and they still managed to win a ton of games. Is because they just out macroed, outplayed, and out team fought a lot of teams. I was very happy.
I found
the Shy was still good.
Man, he was good.
Here's the Sejuani thing. I had to see it through Dom's thing because I couldn't. I remember just how bad this was. So he sees him here. This is like, okay. The Sejuani one, right? So he should win this right here.
Oh my god. Yep.
Okay.
This is where you stop chasing because he gets the shield. You're now down.
You lose the fight. You lose the fight, and then you lose the buff as well. You're like, and people out here saying, "Oh, Tarzan's good. Tarzan's top 5 jungler." I'm like, nigga, where?
Tarzan. Man, it's hard to say.
I mean, maybe like
she definitely was a one point, but
I was like, where?
There's 2 junglers that I
5 years ago.
How the fuck you full health get beat by a Poppy, damn near half health?
It's because he was changing
one, but then you also lose the blue buff. I was like, come on, son.
He should have.
Owner was smoking on a Tarzan pack.
Scout
right
literally walked. Dude, literally, their best player Scout walked into lane, did nothing, and then just kept losing. Yep. He just didn't even exist. He lost so much faith in them from scrims. He was like, "Bro, get me out of here. This is ass team."
I mean, the problem was
Hawk played Blitzcrank and threw like no hooks too. Just saying, he threw like no hooks. That's cool. That's why you play a playmaking support, right? To throw no hooks.
Yeah. One last thing I want to say about Blitzcrank is that they picked Nyla into him, and it is a massive counter. It is like the reason they picked Nyla is because if you hook Nyla, she gets damage reduction.
That's the play. Oh my. This is the play I was talking about. I was like, this guy's drinking cough syrup. Okay, look, there's no way they can defend this. No way. He's like, oh, my mind's telling me no. My body. Oh, I'm dead. He's griefing. That's griefing on level.
That was just cough syrup.
And then,
but Zeus
okay, so I know
Zeus was the best.
I know we have a lot of fans who watch on like Spotify and Pockets and platforms. If you have video, look at how bad this is.
They don't know what this is. This
Scout
is game.
Literally lost this to the Red Herald buff here.
This is game 1 of the BLG.
This is game 2. Look at this. 2? Okay, so he can't fight this.
This is game 1.
It's game 1.
Back off. What are you doing, you crack smoker?
It's game. Okay, this is game 1 of T1 versus. No, yeah, game 1 of T1 versus LND quarterfinals.
About 10 minutes in. 10 minutes in.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. About 10 minutes in.
I want people to understand that there is nothing he can do here. Nothing. Just give it up. It's okay. You have your Zir. You outscale. You have Kaisa. You outscale. Tarzan. Like, look at this. This is win trading. How's that not win trading? That's win trading right there.
You know what? If you're gonna go for that, at the very least, you have to use Flash there, because then at least a Zir can come up.
And then Zika's out here getting solo killed. Just solo killed because he's just trash for the most part.
No, fuck all that.
So
Why do these motherfuckers keep giving? They use Aatrox.
Like what?
Come on, son.
Yeah.
Okay, how did this draft go? Did they pick Brian Gwen into Aatrox, or did they counter pick?
Gwen's a counter to
Gwen.
Gwen. Yeah, Gwen's a counter to Aatrox. Yeah.
When you pick Gwen, it's because when Aatrox uses his Q, you can just use your little, I think it's W, and you can make it to where none of them can hit you.
Oh, okay.
He can't use the ability on you unless he gets to the last part of Q and uses W. But obviously that didn't matter because he got completely dumpstered by Zeus.
But I do agree with MSK about Kai'Sa. Gala on Kai'Sa was just absolutely that was a no go.
Crazy. That's actually his best champion too. That's actually crazy.
The best.
But into our Nyla Senate comp,
he's the best Kai'Sa in the world. That's why they picked it. But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I will say this. The things I want to say about Tarzan, I can't say on YouTube. Since we're on YouTube, I'll show on YouTube a week. The things I want to say about Tarzan are things that I'll say on Rumble because I can't say the things I want to say about that guy after watching that. Do we just not see
maybe you shouldn't say it at all.
I was like, this guy's on cough syrup. He's
he's sipping on something, right?
Anybody ever told you kind of look like Beyonce, Chaz?
Shut the fuck up. What is wrong with this nigga, man?
All right, so before we head out, I want to play League for an hour before we go. So, Chaz, who would be some of your biggest frauds or overperformers throughout the tournament?
Okay, overperformer, NRG, they overperformed, in my opinion. Yeah. They overperformed. Another team, Fnatic.
They overperformed?
Yeah.
They didn't really play anybody. The people they beat.
Nah, they overperformed. I thought it was gonna be them and BDS going 0-3 drop. I didn't think.
Oh,
I thought Mad Lions was better.
So you're saying like from the position that Fnatic got to be in quarters?
Yeah.
You think I would say okay. If they don't throw the Baron either, they're in quarters. They would just be
overperform. Also, Weibo. I think I did say Weibo wasn't going to make it, but I thought it was going to be coming down to like the final thing, and they made it. I was like, okay, all 4 Chinese teams made it. Okay. My last overperformed team, was Game Esports. They won a game. That's more than Team Liquid.
They actually beat a Western team. That's
okay. Fraud Team Liquid. Them losing the way they had T1 by the ropes, let that shit go, lost the team fight, and then they just lost their minds. Who else? I don't want to say G2, but part of me has to say G2 because of
that's what we said too. Because based off how we thought about them coming in,
I truly thought Energy was a tough matchup. I thought they were going to be able to find a way to beat them. That was heartbreaking. D+ only because I thought they were going to be able to adjust. But honestly, I kind of underestimated how bad that team did not care about being here. They just look so defeated. They just look so freaking defeated. Also frauds. LNG. Biggest frauds.
I think that's your least favorite team at Worlds, isn't it?
The hype that people of course there's people that was dick riding the Shy Cathedral, but that's understandable. LNG, I saw they play. I'm like, they're lucky they're here because EDG decided to just not give a fuck about the rest of the season. And Top Esports gets blown out, or I say, even though it was close against Weibo, it was a lot. It was the mentality of Top Esports. They didn't really care. Mm-hmm. There was something about. I look at the team. I'm just like,
you had LNG as a sleeper team to win the entire thing. An actual dark horse. No, the predictions for the casters and everyone, they had LNG as a sleeper pick to actually win the event.
I was on the opposite trend.
I knew they made top 8. I knew that.
I was like, okay, they made top 8 because they're a Chinese team, and most of these Chinese teams, they're clapping the fuck out of most of the Western teams. The only Western team I saw that I actually beat an Eastern team was G2. I mean, they beat two Western
teams.
They did
two of them. Yeah, they did.
Two Eastern teams.
And they took the game off BLG too in their best of 3. Yeah.
And NRG, I had no faith. I said NRG could face any of them. I think the only series that could have been tough was the LNG series.
Yeah.
Like, who else? I don't want to say Cloud9 or frauds. Fudge is a fraud. He should not be on Cloud9 anymore, in my opinion. Bad Lions as a whole team are bad.
I think one of them should be killed. I think we should be allowed to kill one of them.
Jesus.
I'm just saying, if you make me watch that gameplay, I should be allowed to throw knives.
Unalive. He means unalive in
YouTube. He said that, not me. New Cam, please.
We're like 3 hours in, man. They can
he means unalive in Resident Evil.
Okay, but this is what I'm saying. I can't call Mad Lions frauds. I knew they were.
I knew they were frauds too, but there were people saying that they could be.
Did you want to see that Hill is saying gameplay?
No, matter of fact, I'm gonna take back Mad Lions being frauds. They just sucked.
The BDS hype was weird.
Oh no, BDS hype was some bullshit. The Adam hype was guaranteed. Yeah, Hill saying I'm glad he's off Mad Lions. As well, to me, Crowny LeBron was probably the worst bot lane I've seen at this world. It was atrocious. Then being off Cloud9, thank God, finally that was not a support. I'm glad PO6 and Summit left Team Liquid. Team Liquid was dog shit. Core JJ needs to retire. I like Core JJ, but it ain't it,
retired. Dude, he shouldn't have even been playing on Team Liquid this year. I don't know.
He should have retired after last year. After the whole thing was him and Han Solo not working out. And that shit. Who else? There's a lot of frauds.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I'm not gonna say Weibo are frauds, but I understand the argument. I won't contest the argument and be like, okay, I'll double hear him out. To me, every argument MSK has for Weibo being fraud is the same thing I have for LNG being fraud.
I think the difference is that Weibo made the finals, so it's hard to say they
Well, no, the difference only slightly is because they actually had those 2 games that they did win against BLG. LNG didn't have that. If LNG didn't have that, they just got absolutely shitstormed from game to game to game. Weibo had.
I don't know if you know this, but Weibo won 3 games.
Yeah, I guess BLG.
Okay, I guess.
No, it was 2. It was 2
games because against NRG. Remember, they won 6 games.
It was 2 games, but BLG kind of threw one. BLG threw game 5. That drafted was so shit.
They almost they should have thrown. They almost threw game 2. I think BLG is one of the most overrated teams that's ever.
I think BLG was great. I
don't think they were good. They were placed.
It was very depressing. We were joking about suicide.
I hate that one. That went over.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
That's why I tell people that said LG could have won the world. I'm like, stop it. Get some help.
I think BLG.
I would have had KT over LG for winning world.
If we went to just the understanding of the meta, like if we go back in the past, I think this is one of the weakest worlds we've ever seen in terms of the top teams. One of the weakest worlds.
No, we were talking about that on yesterday, or not this episode yesterday, the one before. This was the worst world championship I think I've watched in a long time.
I think it's fun to watch. I'm not gonna say worst.
And people said the format was the issue. No, the actual gameplay was terrible.
The talent was down.
Great. The format was
I think the change in the format made sense because people like the MSI changes. I know people were gonna like the MSI changes. I was like, okay, world's have different format here. Cool. But everyone kept blaming the format, and I'm sort of going like, no. The actual gameplay is so bad at this world championship. This is the freest worlds ever. If Faker didn't win this one, that was going to be embarrassing. If he couldn't win this world championship,
if Faker or Genji, I felt like those were the 2 teams that were supposed to be in the finals.
They were on the opposite side of the brackets too. It had it set up, man. Opposite side of the bracket too.
Think about it was David versus Goliath in semifinals, but it turned out JDG was actually David. T1 was Goliath in disguise. Like, nigga, you saw it. Oh, we're Goliath. We're the big dude. But T1 fucking Transformers, nigga.
T1, I gotta say, they got arguably the best player in every position. That is There's a big reason why they won is because there's just the massive.
Plus,
Like
Gumiushi, best player coach.
Gumiushi, argument for second, first, just based off ruler. It's the only argument you can make.
Yeah.
Carrion is the best support of all time. Zeus was the best player at the tournament.
Yeah.
Owner was, the only
Owner
argument
was
to
lived up
make
to
is
the
Owner
BLG
actually white fisted every single jungler.
BLG is the only jungler you can make an argument was better than him. The only jungler.
No, I think I think Blabber was better.
You know, I will say, I'm not gonna lie, I think Razor played really well. Razor, it's hard to say because I think it's just like he had him and
he only played well because the things you're talking about, people messed up into him. He capitalized.
This man outplayed. It was all outplays. It
looks like messed up into him.
No. You need to rewatch that.
But the
Razor
game against
was so
LNG.
good.
If you're throwing the LNG game,
the Lee Sin game.
He played well on Lee Sin because he's a European fuck.
I'm just saying, like, the reality is, if we're just going based on, like,
why are you so black?
Like, you really are a little black.
How about we have a hot threesome right now? Chaz blows his load into James's ass.
Chaz.
No, James, don't even entertain that, James. You entertain that, man, you need to take a cold shower, go to sleep. What's wrong with you, nigga?
Chaz, look at me.
What?
You like that?
What's wrong? James, you and MSK both need cold showers and Jesus. That was that two niggas need, man.
Maybe James should just dig my booty hole out.
Nope. You ain't watched that. I'm not even convinced you white. I'm not convinced you white, man. Nasty.
He said you stink, nigga. You stink.
That's the blackest part of your body because you got poop on it.
Have you seen your toenails?
Yeah, you know what? My toenails are based off of my genetics. Your butt is based off the fact that
toenails look like the inside of my butthole.
That's terrible. Don't ever say that again. That's
first of all, how do you even know that?
My toenails?
I just stare at his toenails for
my toe. I had an infected.
No. How does MSK know the inside of his? You know what?
My man. He connected a camera to that dildo we bought him years ago. And just nowhere we went from there.
Oh God. So okay. We're gonna play. We're gonna head out of here in a little bit. Do you guys have anything you want to plug before we leave? Actually.
You know what? I made a new channel that me and Chaz are eventually gonna make a video on, but it's called.
You talk about I'm not just schedule. I told you.
No. You told me that you could make it on Sunday. He was wondering why we hadn't made the video yet. I said it's because me and you have 50 schedules.
This week is pretty much free because I'm just practicing because the cup last weekend I got a challenge in 2 weeks, back to back Saturdays and Sundays. That's me. I'm gonna be not tired, but I'm gonna be practicing for those. That's me. I got this week and next week, pretty much. Not all day because I can do it Saturday night
real quick
because I got two regionals to watch. One all in Australia.
I saw that. Yeah.
And then the other one is going to be in Poland.
Give me a few seconds. I'll find the channel.
Those are going to be about 6 hours ahead. That's when I won't be up. And due to I'm just going to locals / testing. That's going to be me coming in half tired, not giving a fuck. Like I literally came in half tired and almost topped a freaking cup. Like literally.
Like
if my round three went differently, I probably would have top 4.
Like, dude, I had to seriously think about this world championship when I was at work. I was like, was this one of the worst worlds I've watched in a long time?
I liked watching it. I did not think the quality was good.
I think the worst one for me, from what I've seen, was the G2 FPX one.
Like if we're being,
I think that one was
I think MSI was way more better quality of gameplay than we saw at Worlds. That was
this year. Oh no, of course.
Yeah, dude. I was like, bro. At least those series, some of those Asian series look close as fuck. The series we saw here were just straight up bad.
Because the best final I've seen was last year. Last year. Out of all of them, there was the G2.
My favorite will always be the 2016 one because I was rooting for Samsung. That was a really great one too.
To me,
last year was good too.
Yeah, it was. I had a lot of fun. It was
to me. There's 2 worse
The two
The
worst
three
worlds,
worst.
Fnatic versus IG was even worse. That was dog shit.
Oh yeah, that was 2018. No, that was garbage.
I want to point. I do want to say I really like the macro gameplay, but that was the very first transition we've had into fast, hyperactively fast gameplay, and it was fun to watch.
In the year that was it RG one, was that 2021?
No. That was 2021 was EDG when they played against Gamwon.
That was the one where EDG played from home, right?
No. That was the MSI of last year.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, no, okay. That's the worst MSI I've ever seen. That was bullshit.
Yeah,
motherfucker. You telling me I could be playing home from like this, have a Korean girl sucking my dick, and you'll never know. Like I could literally have Lena on her knees with my nuts in her mouth and playing League.
Why is it got to be Lennon, Chaz?
Because it's Lennon. What the fuck is wrong with you, James? You and I are gonna be playing League together. What is wrong with you? It's gonna be Lennon
together with his mouth on your area.
No, MSK's gonna be that one dude, and Jay's gonna be Adrian the Virgin. He
told me about the story.
No, these motherfuckers were literally sucking each other off while playing League. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
I almost drowned just right now. You guys didn't see.
Good.
Man, I'm trying to drown Lenon's pussy, man. I'm not
I thought you were going to give her your special gravy.
Hell yeah, I'm trying to give her that too. And then she can come just sit on this big old lap right here.
Can I do that, Daddy?
Nah.
What about me?
No, you can go sit on James' lap. James, you can sit on MSK's lap.
Get that unwashed bottom half away from me. My man's about to smell like a Easy Mac.
You look like you have cum coming out of your hair.
My man, you got crushed all over your body. You smell
your
like
beard.
You
smell like, shit
like a Kraft macaroni and cheese single.
Shit. Oh shit!
Is that a cum stain on your bed?
It might be. And you know what? It's still cleaner than you.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I could not wash my seats for 2 years, and it would.
I smelled your seat after you left, and it smelled like two dogs fucking.
Why did you smell my feet?
Dogs fucking.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I'm just saying, you look like you got cum coming out of your curls.
My man, you just smelled my seat. I don't know what to say about that. You freak. I licked the spoon that you ate, and your breath smelled tasted really good.
You're gonna get AIDS doing that. You're gonna get AIDS.
You might get AIDS. I licked.
So yeah. For anyone who's, I know everyone loves these long podcasts, but I just thought, might as well recap the entire world. We're pretty far ahead for the show, so we might not have an episode on Sunday unless we're going over the special episode on Sunday I want to do.
Yeah.
So since we've been watching since 2014, I wanted to rank the world's winners we've seen every year since then.
Oh, real quick. Yo, the news is crazy. Like, Menace retiring.
That's
the best one by far is Summit. Summit going after APA, saying this guy, how was I supposed to perform with the Ziggs one trick in mid lane? This guy's angry.
He ain't wrong though.
But Summit sucked. But Summit sucked at Worlds.
Well,
he was the only reason why they're really good at Worlds.
But my man blamed him for Worlds when he actually did worse than.
They should blame Harry. They put all this resource into Harry, and Harry just went up the stage and did one ching chong this.
Harry in the bot lane. That bot lane was goddamn non-existent.
That bot lane was worse than.
Jan lost to the GAM ADC.
Honestly, I'm pretty sure my Thresh ADC would have beat Jan on lane.
I'm telling you right now.
Did people not watch Core JJ on rail? He looked like he had a stroke.
I don't know what happened to Core JJ. It's actually impressive that he played that poorly.
Age, man. Age is just like.
He ain't that old, though.
Like
he's 28 or 29.
That's not old. So the big thing is
that is
that isn't actually. If you look at esports in general, a lot of people transition into playing well still into their late 30s.
They're doing great.
I'm just telling you, it's actually a different prime. There's a different prime in terms of physical versus mental.
Faker is like 28, and the motherfucker has like his worth about to fall off. Like Core J he's like 28, 29.
They're about the same age. Yeah,
they're about the same age. Like,
I don't. It's not that old for esports. There's a lot of players that are still playing well at 28.
Well, that's
a lot of
what we're
players
factor in. Faker is an anomaly to all this stuff too. He's kind of like
Plus, don't forget, Faker took like almost 3 months off.
There's a lot of, especially the FPS. There's a lot of 30-year-olds still playing. A lot of them are still best in the world too. So it's hard to say. So a lot of it comes down to maybe, I don't know what it is, but I don't want to give Core JJ the age thing because he's just bad. But
badly ever since like 2021. I was surprised he still kept getting on.
2021, he was okay.
I mean, the very first indicator of that was his Worlds performance with Tactical at that World. There was a single reason why they didn't get past that group stage.
It was Tactical. Tactical was bad. He roamed around the map trying to make things happen, but Tactical sucked. Tactical should not have been.
Remember,
in the LCS.
The group stage was so close. It was the first time in World's history where every team was beating each other. It had to go into a 4-way tie. That's how close it was.
That was so fun. That was so fun. That's the reason I kind of miss groups, is because that's fun to watch. But what I want to say is I linked the channel that that we're going to be making that video on. Mostly what we're going to be doing is a lot of anime reviews, manga, comics, manga, all that stuff. We're going to be doing that too.
Oh, it was good. It was good. I'm done. I'm about to be done with RPM. Then I'm gonna go back for the first 3 Disney shows. And okay. For the original Power Rangers, shall I watch the original season or the revision season, or it doesn't matter?
What did
that
they
revision
change?
season does some really cringe shit.
Like,
so
okay.
On comic books,
I watch all the Power Rangers up to.
I would do it in its original entirety, because when I watched that revised version, they kept doing like this. They kept over cringing it. We all like when a monster comes out, they would be like, "Oh yeah, it's like a pizzazz." And I was like, "This is what?"
It's cringe. It's cringe. So
yeah. They kept over dramatizing the huge moments, and it just took me out of the experience constantly.
Gotcha.
I always go back and watch the originals. That's me.
Okay,
I can't do that revised shit.
Okay, that's gonna take me a little longer, because as of now, I'm done with Time Force. Because I kind of skipped around the place. I'm done with Time Force. Everything from Samurai to Super Down Charge. I'm
League right now. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up here. Anything else you guys want to say about Worlds 2023 before we head out?
Not really.
I mean,
this tournament fucking sucked.
Overall, I did enjoy Worlds, but man, this
it was cool hanging out, staying up late, watching the games. But dude, it was a bad World Championship.
I just wish it was a little bit earlier. I don't like Korean just because of that. Where's it going to be at next Worlds year? Do you know?
London. First, it's going to be in Europe.
Yeah,
well, that's nice.
It'll be a lot more easy on the time. Yeah,
to a certain degree.
Well, it's
be a lot more in the morning. It'll be a lot more in the morning to the afternoon. Yeah,
should be 11 hours.
Yeah. No more one. I would say, I don't know. I'm not saying the LPL is bad, but every year when people hype them up, they usually just crumble for the most part. I don't know. This is how I see it personally, But
it's a long season. That's how I was like, okay, the momentum's just gonna carry.
Yeah.
And T1 with the health, they got healthy, and that was a bad sign for everybody.
Also, healthy. My biggest issue with the tournament is just the meta reads were so bad. Drafting was bad. Meta reads were bad.
You know why? Because there's people trying to do clever shit. It was like, let's do something that no one heard of.
And T1's just like, we'll just go back to our original playstyle and we'll just do what we're good at.
Yeah, because no one expected them to do that, and that was a surprise factor. It was like, oh, okay, Carrier and Gumayusi are just picks out their ass, and you're like, oh, Gumayusi.
Wait a minute, yeah, and then you're like, wait a minute, this is the same Carrier that was the best player in the world in Spring Carrier. Oh shit, now we're really screwed.
Plus, there's teams out here they use Rumble, and it's like, and then you can have time Faker's playing the chamber that doesn't do anything, but then the middle lane on the other side is so ass. Like, just think about this. In the Cloud9 series, Faker said, I'm going to choose Silas, and I'm going to let you guys win 4v5 because I know a menace is so shit. He is not going to do anything against me in lane. Just think about that. 2 towers. They were 2 towers away from a perfect game. Just think about that.
Yeah,
he picked Silas into what? Oriana? And they say it doesn't do anything. But you're playing against a menace. You're playing against a guy who's asked you, how can I make my game better? While you know how he played because he was in Korea. And you're sitting there like, that's like me, like, that's like if we're playing, you know, and then I'm playing against somebody who's shit at support. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pick Rel and do nothing. It's just wrong. and then I'm still 3 levels up on you. Like,
well, it was great watching League with you guys throughout the year.
Yep.
This Cloud Chaser only comes on once a year anyway, so it's good enough. And
I'm glad Amena's retired. I like it was.
Yeah, he's just a fucking weirdo. You can tell he's a weirdo.
Not him being a weirdo. It's like you took the advice of Chovy and threw it right out the window.
And thank you guys for coming out and watching the episode live if you did. Obviously, if you're checking this out on the replay on the podcasting platforms that we are available on, hopefully this was good enough for you guys to get through most of your day and every commute possible. So yeah, James only comes on once a year. So when he comes on, I have to destroy him in league debates because I'm the daddy around here. I'm his dad, really.
But he's the landlord. He's the lord of the
way,
land
rent's
where
due.
you at.
The rent's due. Did you pay?
Yeah, I did. Maybe
he said, I'm about to treat you like P. Diddy. If you ain't got that rent, you better.
I guess honestly, P. Diddy, that stuff coming out about him, I guess it was
not
expected.
surprising. No, it's not surprising because no offense, I'm from the East Coast, motherfucker. I been knew about that. I been knew how he set up Tupac and Biggie. Nigga, you know, motherfucker, they tell you not to go to the West Coast, you gonna go to the West Coast. Come on, son. That's like someone telling me not to go to a party where I know it's gonna be niggas at. You know, I don't like being around hood niggas, dreadhead, weed smoking, liquor drinking, got gun niggas.
I hate being around black people, them dirty, stinking, filthy.
No. It's not even that too, because it be the white boys out there scared too. But the white boys, I can see them motherfuckers come far away. I'm always aware of a crazy white boy. They ain't the problem. But then, of course, you know who the most. You know who is the most. The one motherfucker you always gotta be like careful of. It's the Hispanic people. No offense, the Mexicans, the Puerto Ricans, the Dominicans, like. You can't tell until you see a flag, and you're like, no offense, not to be racist, gotta be a little racist, because it's true. You motherfuckers be having eyes. They always want to poke somebody. Like, I ain't got time for this. Like,
yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, thank you guys for a whole year of support. We're still gonna have episodes throughout the rest of December. Come after Sunday, we'll be at episode 197. So we'll just be able to take it easier as the rest of the year goes by. And yeah. Thank you guys for watching so much. It means a lot. Obviously, I'm gonna go and get my ass eaten by hot
Carla.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Man, you wouldn't want Carla? Oh my god, man. Them two little sisters.
I
know they freaks, man.
I'm trying to dig in your ass, James' ass.
What is wrong with you, nigga? You got 2 cute Mexican girls, and you don't want to fuck neither of them?
My back hurts, dude.
I'm putting babies in both of them chicks.
Nah, I'm sucking your cum like a vacuum cleaner. All right, everyone.
Thank you for watching the show.